screen so that we can be able to. Okay. So maybe we might not do this, but I just want us to maybe so that we also get to know one another. Maybe somebody can tell me, what do you consider when you want to start writing your research proposal? Your supervisor, you are through with your coursework, for example, and the supervisor tells you that, hey, you now need to start writing a proposal for the award of your degree. What are those things that you consider? Maybe you can just unmute and tell me some of the things, and you can also write in the chat. What do you consider before you choose the topic that you want to write on? Or what do you consider before when starting to write a research proposal? Anybody?
Hello? 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 Hello?
Let's continue contributing to the question as our trainer rejoins. Nicholas, you're on mute.
Okay, sorry. I think I had a problem with my internet. I'm trying to find an alternative source, but I was just asking, what do you consider when you want to start writing your research proposal? Maybe anybody can tell us what they consider. What would you consider? Anyone?
So I think my name is Lillian. I think the first thing that you can consider is probably, depending on the course you're studying, the area of interest. And then from there, you can narrow down the topics to suit what you'd like to understand more or even learn more or work with.
Okay, so depending on the course, you talked about the area of interest. So you say, okay, what really interests me that I want to really get to research on? Any other person?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, my name is Michael Stewart. For my side, mostly I will consider the current issue that is happening in the society or in a specific field. For example, maybe in fish farming, there is challenge of fish disease nowadays, especially from bacteria. So from there, I can start to think what I can do in my research proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. So you will, for him, he says he will look at the current challenges or the current problems that are existing in the specific field, so that can help them formulate. But whatever it is that you look for, I think one of the things that we have to agree, it has to be something that is interesting to you, because you also don't just want to do a research for the sake of doing it. But have you ever, maybe, sometimes you find yourself in a position where you are told, maybe you are part of a bigger project, an ongoing project. So you are told you are going to be a PhD student or a master's student in this project, and you are told these are the objectives of the project. So you have to write a proposal that aligns to the objectives of this project because the project is funding you. Does that happen sometimes? Has anyone ever had such an experience? Has anybody ever had such an experience where you are told you are part of this bigger project, but these are the objectives of the project? So whatever you think you want to write has to be aligned with the objectives of this project. Has anybody ever found themselves in that situation? Hello? Okay, so sometimes people find themselves in those situations. So it might not be really something that interests you so much, but then you are a master's student or you're a PhD student, you know that your research would need some resources like money or equipment, but then you don't have that money or you don't have the equipment. So maybe one of your professors tells you, I have a project I'm running and we are sponsoring students within that project, but then you have to write your proposal in alignment with the objectives of that project. How do you behave around that? What happens in such cases? Do you still have to do what you are passionate about, or in that case now you just have to go around whatever is available? I say this should be conversational so that it's not like I'm training, but I'm just facilitating the conversation. What happens in such a scenario? Do those things happen, or it's something that I'm the only one who has seen those things happening? Okay. So the other thing that we need to say, and I'm seeing here that, so I need to research before I research. You want to write your proposal, but then you need to research before you research. What does this mean? How do you understand this? If somebody says, so do I need to research before I research? What does that mean in the context of writing a proposal? What do you understand when somebody says before you write your proposal or before you do your research, you need to do some research?
May I try?
Yes.
I think it means reading widely around the topic.
Why is it important for you to read widely around the topic?
You'll be able to identify the areas that have been researched on, the areas that have been recommended for further research, and just for general knowledge around the topic.
Yes, because it is only through this that you can identify the knowledge gaps, the research gaps that are there. Otherwise, and also it will also help you contextualize your research within your field. So it's very easy for it to help you paint your research in the bigger picture of your field, so that it also demonstrates your understanding of the field. So you need to really read through and find what has been done before, areas of the gaps that are still existing, the methodologies that have been used, if there are weaknesses and strengths of this. So you really need to be ready to read before you even start writing down anything. You need to read and understand the current things, all these things. So it's important for you to do your research very well before you settle on what you want to research on. So that is important. So there's a matrix here, but I'm not going to read through every single box, because then when the notes are shared, of course, we'll get the chance to digest some of this. But how to select a research topic? How do you select a research topic? So one of the things that is being talked about here, there are several aspects that go into this, but you have to research before choosing a topic. I think that is what we were talking about. Do your research. In other terms, they say do your homework. So you need to do your homework before you choose a topic, because what happens is when you are choosing a topic and you've not done your research, you go to your supervisor or your mentor, and then they tell you, this thing has just been done. I'm reading several papers in exactly, or some of them are exactly the same as what you are talking about. So it means they will just know that you did not read, or you do not know what is happening in your field currently. So you need to do your research so well so that you understand what has not been done, or what has been done and what really needs to be done. So it should not be too broad, because sometimes you find people biting more than they can chew. I will not read all those things, but one of the things that I want to bring to your attention is, at the point of conceptualizing your idea, because sometimes I find students coming to me, or researchers asking me, Nicholas, I'm thinking of a topic for my proposal, or I'm looking for the title of my proposal. You are limiting yourself. Okay, don't think in form of titles. Think in terms of concepts. At the point of conceptualizing your idea, don't struggle to get the right title, because then it will limit you. You will only be thinking in terms of a title. So I want to get the title right. I want to get the title right. No. At the time of conceptualizing the idea, I want you to start thinking about concepts. Think about ideas. What idea do I want to research around? What problem am I trying to solve? What questions am I trying to answer in my field? So that you don't limit yourself to a topic. I've seen sometimes students struggle so much. I'm looking for a topic. I'm looking for a topic. Don't go around looking for a topic. You will look for a topic forever. Look for a concept, look for an idea, look for a problem to solve. Now, if you are able to look for a problem to solve, then it's easy for you, because then you will say, okay, the problem I want to solve is teenage pregnancy, for example. I want to look into the issues around teenage pregnancy in Sierra County, as an example. So then that is the concept you want to research on. And then now you can go around and ask yourself, what specific questions am I asking myself? Or what specific information do I want to collect that relate to teenage pregnancy? Now, you see, that way you will be able to now develop your idea before you even settle on the exact topic. But if you want to start thinking about a topic at the beginning, you are going to limit yourself, and it will be very difficult for you to come up with a very good topic. But if you start thinking in terms of concepts, yes, that one is the best way to think about it. So don't struggle about getting the topic at the beginning. What you need to do is get the idea and the concept at the beginning. Then with that, you can now be able to start crafting the title slowly by slowly. But don't start by stressing yourself about getting the right topic at the beginning. Okay. So when you are going to, at the point of when you are still trying to craft your idea, what are the questions you need to ask yourself? One of the questions you need to ask yourself is, what is the problem you are trying to solve? Because if there's no problem, then there's no need of you writing a proposal. Why are you going to do your research if there's no problem you are trying to address? Okay. Then what steps do you take? You select you select the problem you want to start, and then you develop a statement of the problem. So what is the problem? Why should it be studied? Okay. Then, so one of the elements of the steps is you need to identify the problem. So that is problem identification, problem prioritization, and then justification of why this needs to be done. Now, I will not read all this also again, because then this also will be shared so it can help you. But then I wanted to bring your attention. I just want to repeat the fact that when you are formulating your research idea, don't think in terms of topics. Don't think in terms of titles, because that will limit your thinking. Think in terms of concepts, think in terms of problems that you want to collect, you want to address. So once you decide on a concept, you decided on the idea, then you now need to start thinking about this idea. What information what knowledge do I want to generate out of this idea? Then that will help you decide, or help you get the data sets or the kind of information you need to collect. Then that will now help you get the the right data collection procedures, the right methodology. So stop thinking in terms of topics. Whenever a student comes to you and tells you, oh, Dr. So-and-so, I'm trying to look for a research topic or a research title, tell them, you don't need to look for a research title, that will come. Just think of an idea or a problem and then come to me, then we can now talk about it. But then if they want you to talk about a topic, it's a bit difficult. So what other questions do you want to ask yourself? What information is already available? Remember, we're talking about the research, doing your research, doing your homework. You need to do literature review to find about the information that is already available. Why do you need to conduct the research? What is the achievement of the research? How to carry out the research? So that is the methodology. How to collect data information? Where from to collect this data information? So all this needs to go into your questioning when you are developing your idea. So in your idea, you need to ask yourself, what do I want to do? Why do I want to do it? How do I want to do it? And where will I do this? And so what? So of what importance will this data be? Once you ask yourself those questions, then you can now be able to now start sitting down and asking, how then do I package this into a title that gives all this information that when somebody reads, they know all the variables and all the things I want to talk about, okay? Now, the other things are who will collect the data and when. So that is where we are going to talk about your work plan. How will this be monitored? All these things. But then this is also true for proposal for funding. You know, we have the research proposal that we are going to talk about today, but we say the difference between research proposal and a grant proposal is not so different. The difference is not so much. They are almost this. There are a few things they share in common. So all these questions you need to ask yourself in whatever proposal you are writing. Okay. Now, we have thought about the ideas, we've thought about all these things, but then we are now at the planning stage. We have not started writing our proposal. At one point, we'll start writing the proposal step by step, but now let's plan. What are the critical steps in planning when you are now planning your proposal writing? Step one is knowing, analyzing the problem. I think I've talked about this and I'm not going to stress it any further. This is achieved by analyzing the prevailing situation. So you need to know and analyze the problem. What is the problem that I'm trying to solve? If you don't have a problem you are trying to solve, if there's no knowledge gap that you have identified and analyzed that you want to fill, your research will not make any sense to any professor. You will go to them and tell them that one of the things they will ask you is, why is this important? Why is it important for you to collect this data? Or what problem are you trying to solve? And then you start saying, you know, prof, you know, you see, you know. Go to these people with an idea that is already analyzed enough. So your problem should be screaming. The statement of the problem should be screaming. Somebody should just see that indeed this is a problem. Indeed, there is a gap. You need to go to them and tell them, based on my research, I have seen that the issues around, like, issues around college dropouts, or issues around drug abuse maybe in a certain county, in a certain area, has not been studied well enough, or this and this aspects about drug abuse has been studied, but then this one is still lacking. So that is why I need to study this. And for me to achieve this, I will collect data on this, and this, and I'm targeting this specific population, and this is how I'm going to collect the data. With that, the professor will be very happy because they will say, okay, now come, let's sit down and reason together. You've told me what you want to do, how you want to do it, why you want to do it, where you want to do it, and why this data is important. So step one is knowing and analyzing the problem. So this is achieved by analyzing the prevailing situation. It enables formulation of statement of the problem and use of the problem tree as a guide. So the problem tree is one of those tools that have been used to, I always advise people to use a problem tree to formulate your statement of the problem. Okay, when you have the problem with the tree, the problem tree looks like this. So at the trunk or at the stem of it, you have the problem. Then the roots are the causes, and then the leaves and the other branches and the other parts are the consequences. This is what happens. You have a problem. What is causing this problem? And what are the consequences of not solving this problem? Okay, so this helps you in trying to figure out how to write your statement of the problem Because if you write it, sometimes people write it without using the problem tree, and you find that there is no connection between the root cause and the problem itself and the consequences. You find it very difficult to tie all this together tightly if you just write it, because then you will write and then you read through and realize, I have not linked this problem to this. I've not linked this cause to this other cause. So it becomes a bit of a problem. I will show an example in the next slide, how you can use this. But this is just showing you what a problem tree looks like in a summary. So the problem tree is in the roots and the causes. That's why you hear people saying, we need to get to the root cause of this problem. So those causes are what is making the problem be there. So if you solve these causes, then you are going to actually solve the problem. Okay, so what happens is the root causes and the consequences will help you formulate your objectives, because then you want to study these problems so that you can come up with solutions to the consequences of this problem. Because it's only by addressing the causes of this problem that you can deal with the problem. Okay, so this is an example of a problem tree. So the problem that we are trying to deal with, and the core problem here, is that teenagers do not finish school. So what is causing this? And what are the consequences of teenagers not finishing school? Okay, so some of the causes of teenagers not finishing school is parents don't encourage them, school is not interesting to them, and there is need to find employment to support family. So sometimes they need to find employment to support their families, so they don't finish school. But then what is causing? So you need to keep connecting these causes until you follow the roots, until you get to a point where you cannot go any lower. Then you realize, I can now link all this together in one full sentence. But then if you don't use a problem tree, you might end up just talking about the superficial problems, the first layer of problems, without going deeper into this other the connected problems. So you need to practice using a problem tree, so that in fact, sometimes you just draw it on your notebook. You just draw in the middle, you put a box, and then put the main cause, and then you start asking yourself, what is causing this problem? You say, okay, this is causing them. Then what is causing this first cause? What is linked to the second cause? Just like that. And then once you draw it very well, you can now say, how then can I write this in a continuous paragraph so that all these causes are linked together, and then I tie them together and link them to the problem. Now, the consequences, on the other hand, will help you write the significance of your study or the justification of your study, because then you will easily say that by studying this problem, consequences A, B, C, D will be eliminated, because then you are providing solution. When you are writing the justification for your study, you need to explain to us of what importance will the results of your study be. So when you use the problem tree, the roots or the causes will help you write the problem. But then the consequences or the effects will help you justify your study. Will help you tell whoever is going to review your proposal that by finding the solution to these problems, by eliminating this problem, or the data I'm going to collect will help in solving this problem, hence reducing the consequences A, B, C, D. But then it's easy for you now to relate or connect those consequences because you are seeing them in your problem tree. The other example that is here is the rice productivity is low. So there's low rice productivity, for example. What is causing the low rice productivity, and what are the consequences of this low rice productivity? So these are things that you practice using. You just practice using problem tree, and you will find that it makes it easier for you to work around your statement of the problem, rather than if you just write that out of just your own thinking in your head, because sometimes you find that the ideas in your head might not flow, they might not be organized in a certain order. So when you use a problem tree like this one, you know what are the causes, you can easily link. The problem is A, B, C, D, this is the main problem. What is causing the main problem? This, and this are causing the problem. And then when you are formulating your statement of the problem, I always tell people you need to address two things. One, you need to expose to us the real problem in the society, or the real problem on the ground. And then the next problem you need to also demonstrate and make it very clear is the gap in research. Because if there's no knowledge gap, even if you're telling us this is the problem that is there in the society, but then it could be a problem, but then in academia, it might have been studied so many times. So then in academia, we will tell you, fine, that's a problem, we know, but it has been overstudied. So there's no need of you writing a proposal about it. But then if you identify it to us and tell us, this is the problem in the society, or this is the problem on the ground, but in academia, this is also the gap. So you need to talk to us about the two things. We need to see the actual problem on the ground, and we need also to see the gap in research. Now, the second step after analyzing the problem is what we call concept mapping. And I have talked about this, so I'm not going to dwell so much here. I have talked about this concept mapping, where you are conceptualizing your idea and developing it into a researchable concept. From the main idea or concept or problem, branch out to show how that main idea can be broken down into specific topics. So let us say that you want to work on climate change as an example. This is too big. If you go to your professor and tell them that I want to do my research on climate change, they will just look at you, because then they will be waiting for you to tell them what specific aspect of climate change you want to talk about, okay? So before you come down to this, what questions do you need to ask yourself? You need to ask yourself, I've talked about what you need to do, where you need to do it, why you need to do it, how you need to do it. So there's the what, the where, the how, and who will be affected or who will be involved in this and why it is important. So these are questions you need to ask yourself. I think those are things I have talked about. Now, the other thing that I also tell students is, after formulating your idea and you already are clear that this is what I want to research on, you need to write your PhD or your master's story. And I always tell people, sometimes you need to write a story for every objective. Plain story. You don't need to go into writing a lot of jargon and too much detail. No. In very simple and plain language, write out what you want to do. Make it as clear as possible, first to yourself. So ask yourself, what would your answer be to this question? What are you researching on? Somebody asks you, what is your research about? You will not start telling them my research is on A, B, C, D, telling them the topic, the problem I'm solving, I'm trying to solve is this one, these are my objectives, this is the methodology. You're not going to tell somebody all those things. You need to tell them a very short story, okay? So this story must be very clear and very plain. Of course, you are going to get a detailed and a detailed proposal that has all the jargons and everything in it. But at the beginning, make it simple and very clear. So if somebody asks you, what are you studying? Tell them, okay, I'm looking at the aspects of the use of black soldier fly in the formulation of fish feeds, because fish feeds are becoming very expensive, and the protein source is also a challenge. So I'm looking into if we can use black soldier fly as a substitute as a protein source in the feed in the fish feeds. And I'm trying to look at whether the link of this to growth, survival, and other aspects of fish. And this will help me maybe advise these people alternative sources of protein and help lower the price of fish feed production within the aquaculture sector. So you have a short story, but then this story tells everything. It tells about what you are doing, how you want to do it, and why it is important for you, and who can utilize the information that you're going. So just try, go back today and write your PhD or your master's story. A short and simple story. If somebody asks you, what are you researching on? A very simple story. It has to have the what, the how, the when, the where, and all those. Now, the other thing that I always tell people, and especially PhD students, is for every objective you have, you could have 4 or even 5 objectives, try to write a mini story again around each of the objectives. Because you will be called to a conference, and you go to this conference and you're not going to present your whole thesis in the conference, or you are not going to present your whole proposal in the conference. You'll be told, you look at the conference, topic, and then you say, okay, of the 5 objectives, this is the one objective that fits with the objectives of that conference. So you are going to this conference with a specific story. You are not going to this conference with the entire story of your entire thesis. So what you need to do is, for a PhD or even a master's, I always advise them, after writing your journal, you're not going to share this with the supervisor. This is not going to be even examined. But I want you to write it and keep it somewhere on the side so that every time you can always be going back to see whether the data you are collecting is still flowing with your story. What is your story? So write that story for each objective. I always tell people, write a mini story for each objective and put it on the side. So you keep referring because it will keep guiding you back to your research, okay? Now, if you are going to do this, especially if it's for funding, then you need to identify the funding source. So determine where the resources for your project will come from. For PhDs, sometimes, like an example, my PhD was about aquaponics, and this was some heavy investment. You need to do a recirculating fish system that would cost a lot of money. So you need to identify where is this money coming from for me to be able to construct or work around my system. If it is for funding, think about how can you help them, not how they can help you. These funding agencies have their own objectives as well. You could have their objectives for your proposal, but then there's something they want to achieve. So when you are trying to pitch for them, make them feel like you are in line with what the objectives they want to achieve. Now, why do you need to write a research proposal? Okay. I'm not going to put that so that we can also contribute kidogo a little bit. Why is it important for us to write a research proposal? Why is it important to write a research proposal? Why don't we just go ahead and start doing research and then write our thesis? Why is it important to write a research proposal? Anybody? Why is research proposal such an important thing in academia? Why don't we just go ahead and collect our data and write our thesis? Why do we need to write a...
The protocol sounds as a guide to every step of what you want to do. It gives a step-by-step approach to all the research you want to do, and then it also gives a guideline. So you have something you are able to stick to a plan and a protocol all through the research. That's what I mean.
Thank you so much. It helps us in planning and just organizing our ideas and organizing ourselves and making sure that we have something guiding us. Otherwise, you might go to the field and just collect data and then you don't know how to piece it together because you did not plan at the beginning. So the proposal basically is for planning. Any other person who wants to maybe try and tell us why we think it is important for us to write a proposal rather than just going to the field and collecting data?
Hello? You hear me?
Yes.
Yes. It is also act as a justification, because someone may ask you that to give us the proof that how do you come with this idea. So it is very easy to show someone, and also it can help you to secure the fund from the sponsors.
Yes, because then somebody would ask you, how did this come to be? What was the reasoning or the thinking behind all these things? What were the plannings? How did this come to be? Because you are presenting to me data. I don't know what went into the thinking of collecting this data. How did you decide to even collect? What were the objectives when you are going to the field? What was the thing? All those things. And if it is for funding, somebody will not just give you money. You just tell them, I want to go to the field to collect data on fish growth. Then they say, okay, I'm sending you money, you send me your account number. It does not work like that. So you've said it rightly that it will also help you, because you need to, if somebody wants to fund your research, for example, they need an idea, they need proof that indeed this is something that is workable, this is something that is viable, okay? So it helps you also clarify your ideas. I think we've talked about this. It helps you plan. It also helps you develop good writing habits, because you shall have started writing some parts of your final thesis. So there are parts of your thesis that will not change. Part of it will change. There are parts of your thesis that will not change even when, so you will start writing. But also it also helps you communicate your proposed research to get advice. If you have a supervisor or you have a mentor and you want them to help guide you and give you advice, it's very difficult for them to guide you if they don't see a proposal. So they will always tell you, you might go and talk to them orally, but they will tell you, I want you to go and write a concept or go and write a proposal so that I can be able to see how to guide. It helps you to communicate your research, to get advice. So you need to write a proposal, because that is the only way you can be able to get advice and get some guidance. Okay, I'm not going into that. Now, what do you think the reader is looking for in your proposal? Maybe 2 or 3 people can, if somebody is reading your proposal, what is it that they are looking for? So that you know, because if you know what they are looking for, then it's easier for you to know when you are writing your proposal to make sure that your proposal has those things that they are looking for. If somebody is evaluating your proposal, what do you think they are looking for in your proposal? Anybody?
Hello, good morning. I
Morning.
think they be looking for the idea. What is it that you want to do and the target population? Who are you targeting?
What is it that you want to do and who are you targeting? Thank you. Any other person, when they are evaluating, what are they looking for?
Hello, good morning.
Morning.
I think they also need to see your objectives and see if they are achievable and the timeline that the objectives will take to be achieved. And if actually they are worth studying, yes. Yeah.
Yes, they want to read your objectives and look at whether are they really achievable, are they even reasonable? Because sometimes I want to give you money, or I want to, as a professor, I want to allow you to go to the field and collect data, but I really need to look at your objectives and see whether they are smart enough. Otherwise, I'm not sure whether you are going to achieve this or not. Any other person?
In the case of sponsors and the donors, they mostly look about the significance of your research, what contribution it will have in the society or in the specific field also. Most important is that.
Yes, so they want to see, we are going to give money, especially, let's say you put it rightly that in the case of sponsors, for example, they want to say, we are going to, this guy is asking us to commit some money. But then if we are going to commit money, is this money going to get to bring anything to the society, for example, or the society of academia, or just in the general public? Are we going to get value for the money we are investing? So they want to look at the significance, whether this is going to bring to be of any significance. Thank you. So the significance of your proposal, that's one thing they are looking for. The feasibility is the proposal must convince the reader that the research is valuable and is realistic and achievable. Okay. So while assessing or reading the proposal, the reader asks a series of questions that your proposal must provide answers. So these are the questions that they ask themselves when reading your proposal. So you need to really think through when writing your proposal. Is this problem worth studying? I think these are things we have talked about already. Are the objectives clearly or stated? What contribution to knowledge of the issue will the study make? If for the reward of a degree, will the expected research outcome meet the requirements of the degree? So if a professor, for example, is analyzing your research, they are reading your proposal, they will ask themselves, the kind of proposal you are giving, will it be able, the kind of data you're going to collect or the kind of objectives you have, will they be sufficient to meet the requirements of the degree? Okay. And has the researcher thoroughly reviewed documented literature and used it to justify the research? So they will also look through how much. You remember we were talking about doing research before you do your research. They will also check whether you have done enough research. So background research, they will check, has this person done enough background research to be able to demonstrate that they really understand what is there. Are the proposed materials and methods appropriate for the study, that the researcher have the necessary skills to complete the study successfully? Are the required resources available? For the university, they will ask yourself, because sometimes you want to do research that involves the use of certain techniques or technologies or certain methodologies, that they will ask themselves whether the university or where you are going to do this, do you have the equipment, resources? Do you have the skills yourself to help you achieve the objectives of the proposal you are trying to write? So have potential risks been identified and managed, and is the timeline feasible? Okay, so these are some of the questions they ask themselves. Now, we need to develop now the structure of our research. Okay, so we talked about the what, the how, the when. Those ones we're not going back to. Now, the exact format varies amongst faculties, schools, or even universities. So whatever we're going to talk about today, don't go and tell your supervisor that I was told that the objectives must come after the statement of the problem. What are you telling me? You don't know what you are saying. No, that will not be right. go and look. Each university or each department, each school will have their own guideline or their own format. Follow the format of your university. Whatever we are talking about today is just a general format that might not be really, we cannot say that we have one format that goes for all the universities. No, each university will have its own way of maybe doing things. So ask your university, ask your department, ask your school, how should our proposal appear? What comes after which? What comes after what? So which section comes after which section? So that you stick to that, okay? So you as faculty or school will have specific guidelines on how your proposal should be formatted. So don't stick to it and tell them that I was told that this comes after this, and what you are telling me that it comes after this. No, don't go around arguing with them. If they tell you that they have a format, follow that format. The most important thing is you know the content that goes into that section. So whichever way the sections appear, stick to that of your university. The most important thing is knowing what goes into what section, okay? Now, this is the general context, but then different subjects and different, because it's difficult for me here to sit and say that to give specific guidelines for all the subject areas, because we have humanities, we have the natural sciences where I come from. So I'm in the field of fisheries and aquaculture. The way we write our proposal will be slightly different from the way an engineer will write his proposal, or will be different from somebody who is studying business or somebody who is doing social sciences. So there could be variations here and there. That's why I'm saying you need to bear with us, but then because it's difficult for me to say that this is how it's going to happen, and this is how, if you are writing something in the field of animal sciences, or writing something in the field of social sciences, this is how it appears. But then generally we have a title, we have an introduction. Now the introductory part of the proposal has several aspects that we might talk about here. So you have the introduction, the statement of the problem, the rationale of justification or significance of study. There are universities that will tell you to write the justification and the significance. There are universities that will tell you that the justification alone is enough. There are universities that will tell you that significance alone is enough. There are universities that will tell you to write both of them. So depending on what your university requires, we will talk about the difference between the justification and the significance, for example, and how to write them. The scope and limitation of the study, then there is the literature review, the objectives of the research, and then the operational definition of terms used. The order in which they appear might differ depending on university. So you'll find they appear in a different logical order. Then the hypothesis, the methodology, the work plan, the budget, the references, appendixes. So let's say maybe if you are using questionnaires, for example, you could put them in the appendix, or if you have some data collection protocols, you could put them there. The order in which they appear do not really matter so much. You only just need to know the information or the content that needs to go into that section. So the order in which they follow one another maybe might not be very important. Just follow what your university requires. So let's start with the title. So the title is a mini abstract of your investigation, okay? So you need to paint a quick picture of the key ideas. And this is somebody reading this will see the variables that are there. So they need to see what are the variables. What is this that you are going, what information do you need to collect, and what, so if somebody reads your idea, your title, they need to see, a picture of the key ideas that you are talking about. So if it's about teenage pregnancy in Sierra County, or factors, you need to talk about, somebody reading your title should see what is it that, in fact, they should already even have an idea of the kind of data sets you need to collect, because they will see the variables that are there. So the word should reflect the focus of your proposal. So you need to put the most important words first. So you need to decide, when you're writing your title, make sure that the most important words in your title comes towards the beginning of the title. You don't need to hide it at the end. Let's say your focus is on teenage pregnancy, and maybe certain factors that influence teenage pregnancy, or we are talking about family support and the link between family support and teenage pregnancy in a certain county. And then you've decided to put, you start with the county, you start with the other things, and then you put family, or you put teenage pregnancy at the end, or you put family support at the end. Somebody will not really know what your focus is. So make sure that you put the keywords towards the beginning. So the most important word should come towards the beginning so that when I read, I will start by seeing what is the most important, and then those other supporting ideas can come towards the end. This is an example. So in example 1, the title is Left-handedness in Students and its Relationship to Learning Preferences. The second title reads Learning Preferences in Students and the Connection to Left-handedness. Okay, they might look the same. In the first one, we are talking about left-handedness in students and its relationship to learning preferences. In the second one, we are talking about learning preferences in students and the connection to left-handedness. So the project 1 is focusing on left-handedness. And project 2 is focusing on learning preferences. They might sound like they are the same thing, but the areas they're focusing on 2 different things. The first one is focusing on left-handedness. The second one is focusing on learning preferences. Okay, so in the first scenario, you are going to look at left-handed students and see their learning preferences. Okay, so you are going to focus on left-handedness. So you are going to look at students who are left-handed and look at their learning preferences and see if there's any relationship. In the second one, you are going to ask students, what are your learning preferences? And then you go ahead and check whether they're left-handed or not. So you now see the difference. So you need to tell us what your focus is on. So in order to develop a clear title, you must be clear about the focus of your research. Is your research focusing on left-handedness, or is it focusing on learning preferences? Okay? Now, the title should be concise and descriptive. Often, titles are stated in terms of a functional relationship because such titles clearly indicate the independent and dependent variables. Think of an informative but catchy title. An effective title is not only piques the reader's interest, but also predisposes him or her favorably towards the proposal. So make sure that when somebody reads your title, they already get a gist, they already get an idea of what your focus is on. Okay. This one, we might not do this. I think you might need to do this later on when you go back, sit down with your proposal again. You need to go and check again the title and identify the key points or the important words and check whether you have them towards the beginning of your title. Okay. So that is important. The second part of the title, we have the introduction and the background of the study. Now, the introductory part, like chapter 1 of your proposal, will have several parts, but then let's start with the background of the study. So it provides necessary background or context for your research problem. How to frame the research problem is perhaps the biggest problem in proposal writing. So the background is where you are painting the bigger picture. So in the background, we want you to start by telling us, you need to start by orienting, or you need to start by painting your proposal within the bigger picture, within the context of your field. So let's talk about an example of fish feeds. So my research is on the use of black soldier fly, which is BSF, in the formulation of fish feeds. As an example, that's what I'm studying. I'm looking at black soldier fly and how we can use them to formulate fish feeds. Now, I cannot just go in the background and start talking about a black soldier fly or start talking about fish feeds direct. I want to bring in the background, I want to bring my problem. I want to bring the problem I'm studying into the bigger context of aquaculture. So I need to talk about aquaculture in general so that somebody reading will understand how now my problem fits within the bigger spectrum of aquaculture. So that is why the background is important. So this is where you are going to tell us where the problem came from, the genesis of the problem. Where does this problem come from? What has other people done before that now reveals for you the gap that is there? So secondly, you need to provide a brief but appropriate historical background or backdrop. So we need to know, let's say we are using black soldier fly to formulate fish feeds. Where does this problem come from? So that we don't just see you trying to justify why it is important for you to do this study, but then we don't really see where this problem came from. And then provide contemporary context in which your proposed research questions occupy the central stage. After giving us a small background or a small backdrop to this problem, contextualize it and say, currently now, in the current field or in the current context of aquaculture, this is the problem. In the current context of aquaculture, people are trying now to researchers are now looking into alternative sources of protein in fish feed formulation. And one of them is black soldier fly that has now gained prominence. And that is why you are also interested in studying. And then you now tell us, try to paint a picture of this is how my problem fits into the bigger picture of my field. That is important, and that's why you need to tell us what you need to read, because in the background we also need you to start now teasing out the problem, but not into too much detail, because in the statement of the problem you are going to tell us, to narrate the problem in details, but in the background just tease out the problem without putting too much detail, so that we find where it is. Now, in the background is also where we are going to see what you call the bold claim or your thesis statement. What is that bold claim that you are making? Make that bold claim and support it with some literature or give some backing. If you are going to make a bold claim that fish feeds contribute to 50% of the cost of operations in aquaculture, in fish farming, you need to tell us, where does this come from? You are making a very bold claim, but then where is this bold claim coming from? Because this bold claim is going to support you. You are making a bold claim that supports the problem you are studying. So the problem you are trying to solve is the problem of proteins being very expensive, like fish meal being very expensive. That is why we are looking for alternatives like BSF, black soldier fly. But then, how expensive it is it so that it props your justification for an alternative. So these bold claims, if you are making these bold claims in your background, make sure they are supported by some literature. Okay. So the background or the introduction generally covers the following elements. I'll not read all of them because part of it, as I've explained already, and part of it you will read through it when these notes are shared. The recording will be shared anyway. So it states the research problem, which is often referred to as the purpose of the study, provide the context and set the stage for your research question, present the rationale, briefly describe the major problems and sub-problems. All those, you will see it here. Okay. Now, the background or the introduction, because we have the background of the study. In the introductory part, you have the background of the study, and then now we have the statement of the problem. Some people call it the statement problem, but I find some people call it the problem statement, but I call it the statement of the problem because you are stating the problem. When you talk about the problem statement, it's not very clear what that is. So you are stating the problem. So this is my statement of the problem, okay? The statement of the problem is where we talked about using the problem tree, okay? So the statement of the problem is a clear statement of the problem that answers this question, why this research should be done, okay? But then this is also very linked to the justification. So once you have the problem, so what happens in some cases, you find students trying to write the statement of the problem, but mixing the justification of the significance within the same statement of the problem. So this is the difference. In the statement of the problem, just state what the problem is without trying to justify why it is important to do the study. Okay? So in the statement of the problem, you are looking for something wrong, something that needs close attention, or something where existing methods no longer seem to be working. So in the statement of the problem, just state the problem. What is the problem? The problem is that many farmers are now failing in their aquaculture venture because fish feeds are becoming too expensive. Why are fish feeds becoming too expensive? Fish feeds are becoming too expensive because we rely so much on fish meal as a source of protein. And fish meal is no longer sustainable because our wild catches are going down. So if we are still going to catch fish to feed fish, that is a problem we are seeing. This is making the over-reliance on fish meal, which is expensive, makes it difficult for, makes fish feeds generally expensive, raising the price of, raising the cost of production in aquaculture. And this makes so many farmers fail, or they don't feed their feeds using the right feeds, and this makes them fail. So you don't go ahead and say, this is hence there is a need for us to look for alternatives. No, just state the problem without justifying why you need it. Because the justification, if you start justifying when stating the problem, then what are you going to write in the justification of the study? Nothing, because then you've already told us already why the study needs to be done. So in your statement of the problem, just state the actual problem, state the gap in knowledge, state the gap in research. Just state the problem and stop it there. Then when you come to the justification is where, of the significance of study is where you are going to tell us what you are, why it is important, or what you are studying, why it is important for your study to be done, so that we can now solve those problems, or how your study will solve the problems you're talking about. Okay? Then we have the objectives. I told you the order in which these things follow each other does not matter so much. Stick to the order of your university, but make sure you know what goes into what section. Okay? So objective is a clear, concise, declarative statement which provides direction to investigate the variables. Now, your objectives will guide you on the kind of data sets you need to collect and the methodology you are going to use. Now, objectives generally in research and in most fields, let me talk about my field specifically, we have what we call the general objective and then the specific objectives. So the general objective most of the time will borrow almost like the title. It reads almost, not exactly like the title, but it borrows a lot from the title because you are just stating the general aim of your project. But then when you now come to specific objectives, these specific objectives will be guided by the variables you are testing, and they will also be guided by the data sets. They will inform the kind of data sets you are going to collect because this is what is going to guide your data collection, okay? So they need to be clear, concise, and declarative because then that will help you investigate. So it's like to investigate or to determine or to assess. Those are the words that you use that help you, because then if you are going to use empirical methods, then you need to use those declarative statements because then will help you test the hypothesis that you are going to get, okay? Then we have the hypothesis. I think most of us know what these hypotheses are. So hypotheses are testable explanation proposed before conducting a project. Both seek to predict relationships. So you want to predict that there is no relationship, for example, or there's no effect of this on that. So that when you sometimes you are going to test certain relationships. So in your null hypothesis, because that is what mostly is written in proposals, you write the null hypothesis, and when you go and do your data analysis, you're going to either reject or accept the hypothesis. In some cases, you will use research questions and not research and not hypothesis. So research questions are used to analyze and investigate a topic. It is written as a question and is inquisitive in nature. An example is, so we have causal questions, we have descriptive questions, and we have comparative questions. So depending on the kind of study you are doing, your questions will be any of those three. You will read the differences and see as you read through the notes, but then there are cases where you don't, maybe somebody can write in the chat, when do we use research hypothesis and when do we use research questions? We'll come back to this discussion during the open plenary session. Okay, so but you can write this as we move along. Okay, now those group works, I'm not going to talk about them, but then we are talking now about the significance of study. Most of the time, you will find, in some cases, you will find that the justification, after your statement of the problem, you will write the justification or significance of your study. But in some cases, you find there's a break. After writing your statement of the problem, they will tell you to state your objectives very clearly and even the hypothesis, and then now write the justification or significance to after that. I've seen universities that tell you to write after the statement of the problem, the objectives, and then the justification or the significance. Some universities will say after writing the statement of the problem, you follow it with the justification immediately before you even write other parts. Now, the significance, some universities will tell you to write the significance, some universities will tell you to write the objective, the justification, but some universities will tell you to write both. Okay, the universities have read proposals where students have the justification of the study, but they also have the significance of the study. Okay, now there is a very slight difference between the justification and the significance. Okay, the justification of your study, you remember there are certain problems that you stated. You stated in your statement of the problem, there's a problem you identified. You say this is the problem that is there, this is the problem that is there, this is the problem that is in academia, this is the research gap. Now, your justification, in your justification, you are writing that the data you are going to collect, how can the data itself now solve the problems you are talking about? But that is the justification. The justification is about the outcome of your research. The significance is about the output of your research. Now, the significance will state who will, of what benefit, like who can benefit from this research. So let's say policymakers can use, or this data can then now be used to formulate policies. They can be used by students to develop their research. So the justification talks about the data sets you're going to collect. I'm going to collect this data, and this is how the data can now be used to justify, to solve the problem. The significance is talking about the output of your research, the outcome, sorry. The justification is about the output. The significance is about the outcome. So in the significance is where you are going to talk about the results of my study can be used by policymakers, can be used by researchers, for example, advance this, can be used by this and that and that. So that is how the significance is, but then it's not a very big difference. The difference is very mild, but then in terms of wording, when you are talking about the significance, you need to keep mentioning the stakeholders. You need to talk about who can use it, and who can benefit from the results, okay? Now, then after that, we have the section on literature review. Now, this section develops broader ideas of what already is known in the field and what is still, this is what is going to help you identify the gaps for your research. We remember we've talked about literature review, and we need to do literature review so that we can identify the gaps, we can contextualize our research, we can also demonstrate our understanding of this. Now, depending on your field, some fields have two forms of literature review. In the field of social sciences, most of the time you have what we call the theoretical literature review and the empirical literature review. In my field, in the field of natural sciences, like fisheries and aquaculture, in my field, I only do what we call empirical literature review. And in that case, we don't even call it empirical literature review. That section is just written as literature review. But in the field of social sciences, I have seen people have two sections. So you have the theoretical literature review, and then you have the empirical literature review. The theoretical literature review is about the theories, because most of the research in the field of social sciences and business and all this are anchored or are supported by certain theories. So this is where you are going to have, you have a certain theory, so you review theories within your field and look at the theories that support your work. So you can find one or three or even five. I've seen one or two, theories. People say, okay, my research is anchored on this specific theory. That theory, you must review that theory, look at the justification. Whatever theory you choose, make sure you have a justification for why it is the one that is informing your research. You cannot go to a professor and tell them that my research is anchored on this theory, is supported by this theory, and then you don't have a justification. But then you need to review other theories also that are related and tell them, I know that this theory is also very close to my research. This theory also exists. This theory also exists. But then I chose this one because of this strength, and this strength. But then this one and this one, maybe they have these weaknesses, so they might not really anchor my study that well. So for the theoretical literature review, this is about the theories. So you will go around looking at theories in your field and choosing the one that supports your work and justify it. It will also help you create what we call the theoretical framework. I have seen in social sciences, you have what we call the theoretical framework and even conceptual framework, because this is the theoretical review is where you're talking about the theories and concepts around your research. Now, the empirical literature review, however, the empirical literature review is reviewing literature that has been literature of research that has been done using empirical methods. So when people collected data using certain empirical methodologies, they came up with certain data, they came up with certain results. Now, when you are doing empirical literature review, here you are going to look at data, or you are going to look at literature that have been generated out of empirical methodologies. So where somebody went out to the field, this is now not theoretical constructs. This one is about empirical constructs. So empirical ideas. So people have gone out to the field, they have collected data using empirical methodologies, and they have reported the results of their study. So for empirical literature review, you are going to read research papers that are on the internet that have been that are reporting certain data. So people have gone out, collected data using certain methodologies, and their data is on the internet. So that is the difference between empirical literature review and theoretical literature review. Now, The theoretical literature review will help you now develop or propose a theoretical framework, how these theories fit in together and how they become into your work. And also sometimes conceptual framework, depending on what your university requires. But most of the time you have a conceptual framework that shows how all the variables link to each other, and all the variables, the independent, the mediating variable, the moderating variable, all those variables and the dependent ones, and how they link to one another. But you need to do, the bottom line is you have to read for the literature review section, okay? Now, in this section, this is where you are going to find what questions are still unanswered. Also, you must show that you have looked through the literature and have found the latest updates in your field of study, okay? It helps you to be sure that your investigation is not just reinventing the wheel, okay? The wheel is always there. Why do we need to reinvent it? It's always there. We can use the wheel that is there, just modify it. Now, the other thing that you need to do, you need to keep in mind when doing your literature review, is the fact that you are not just going to summarize the pieces of literature that is on the internet. You need to sit down and have a very objective mind and have a very critical mind while reading or while doing your literature review. And for me, when I'm reading the literature review section of any student, I will look at the brain of this student in the literature, in the literature that is being reviewed. Because otherwise, if they keep just giving me summaries of what other people have done, then it means that they have not critically analyzed the literature. So you need to go and critically analyze this literature and even give your own, if there are contradictions, if there are any weaknesses, you might need to point them out in the literature review. That is the only way you are going to demonstrate whoever is reading the literature review section that you really understand and you have. Okay, now the literature review section is also governed, or it's also informed by your objectives. So you are going to review literature that is very close to your objective. You really don't want to go around reviewing literature that are far off. Somebody will ask you, you are doing something on fish feeds, but then I'm seeing a subtitle here that is just talking about DNA. Unless there is a way, one of the objectives is talking about the DNA analysis, or make sure that because the literature review section, we are going to review literature under certain specific subtopics. They have to be very close to your objectives. Now, one of the problems that people have is accessing literature. How do I get the right literature? Or where do I go for looking for literature? Some people look for literature. Maybe you can write down for me in the chat, where do you get your literature from? Where do you search for papers from? And do you find them as open access? Because sometimes you find a paper, but the paper is only, you can only read the abstract. The whole paper is hidden behind a paywall and you are expected to pay, but you don't have the money. Is it good for you to cite literature if you have not read that literature? Maybe you've only read the abstract of a paper. Should you cite that paper, or you should not cite a paper unless you are able to read the whole paper? I want somebody to unmute as I also drink some water. My throat is dry. Somebody can also speak. If you have gone through literature, you are searching for literature, you found a very good paper, but you are only able to read the title and the abstract, but the other paper, the whole of the full paper is hidden behind a paywall. Do you cite that paper or not? Anybody? You have seen a good paper, but you cannot access the full paper. You've only read the abstract. Do you cite that paper or you don't? Anyone? We say this is just a discussion. There's nothing right or nothing wrong. In fact, where there are scholars will never give, there's nothing right or wrong. It's about a discussion.
Hello?
Hello, yes?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think to cite a paper, you need to have a full concept of what paper is all about. Therefore, you need to read the full paper to be able to cite a paper.
So if you only read the abstract, you recommend that you don't cite it?
I'll recommend that you find a way of having access to the full paper.
What if you cannot completely have access to the full paper? And but the abstract you read, you borrowed something from the abstract, and you feel that it supported your research.
Okay, if the information that I get from the abstract it's fully understood by me, and I think the concept is well gotten, then I can cite it.
Thank you. I think I will not
we-
explain further. Yes, anybody else?
Hello.
Yes, please.
For my side, is that's why we are devising that to recognize the big shooter in our field. For example, your research on RAS system concerning fish. So you need to recognize who was the big shooter. Is the top writer on a specific journal. From those, you can be sure that even if I cite from the abstract, but I'm sure with the author, we need to evaluate all articles, even if we have abstract, but we know that this author in my field, maybe of RAS system, is a big shooter. So if you have information like that, it is possible to cite.
Thank you. I will say that yes, if you have, I think as Lawal already said, and as you've also insinuated, that if you find information and say, okay, I only read the abstract, but evaluating this, I think this is something good, and it's really informing my research. You need to cite it. Now, I want to come back to you talking about people who already have made names in their field, and then so by just reading their papers, we assume it's a bias that we all have as researchers. We assume that those who have published quite a bit, or those who are a bit more seasoned in our field, will automatically generate good information. It's human bias, but sometimes it's wrong. We have seen labs in the UK or in the US that we assume that, hey, Professor so-and-so have read very nice papers from this guy. So I'm looking at his paper. I'm very sure the information that is here is very good. Sometimes just judging by seniority in the field can be misleading, because some of them now, they are also nurturing their students. They are nurturing very young students, and some of them are also too busy to read through this paper. So you find their names on papers that maybe they have not even read. I've worked quite a bit in the publishing industry, and I am now an editor for Plus One. And sometimes as an editor, I get to read so many papers, and you see very senior researchers, and you get some very obvious mistakes that they make in their papers. And then at the back of my head as an editor, I just know that this paper maybe passed through. The name was here, but then this guy maybe might not even have seen this document. So yes, as you've said, there are people who have led the way in our fields, and we look up to them, and we know that, okay, they will not allow anything stupid to come out of their labs, but we be careful with that kind of judgment. Now, don't worry about that if you are not able to access, or people are writing where they get their papers from. I'll just read a few. So people are feeling that you shouldn't cite the paper. So this is what I'm saying. As long as you have not borrowed anything from that paper, do not cite it. But if you have borrowed anything from that paper and you feel that it has informed your writing, you have to cite it, even if you just borrowed from the abstract. So if you read the abstract and in your own evaluation you feel that the information here is too superficial, I cannot really borrow anything from this paper, it has not really helped me, don't cite, because you've not borrowed anything. But if in your own judgment you only read the abstract and realized, hey, what I've read in this abstract, I may not have seen the full paper, but then there's very, very crucial information in this abstract that I can paraphrase and use in my research, and it is going to contribute to my writing. You have to cite it, because this idea is not yours. So regardless of where you've gotten it from, whether from the abstract or from the methodology, if you have cited it, if you have used the idea, cite it, regardless of where you've gotten it. So it's up to you to decide whether the abstract has enough information for you to cite it. Now, one of the things I will show you is where to get papers from. There are several databases. I'm going to just show you one of them, which is one of those powerful databases where you can get your papers from. It has a database that has several millions of papers and has very nice filters that can help you get your papers. So don't worry about that. Now, the other thing that I want to ask you is, how do you read papers once you have them? Maybe somebody can take us through, how do you read your paper? You have a paper in front of you. How do you read it to get information out of it? Somebody?
Hello.
Yes, Laura.
Yeah, thank you very much. For me, when I'm reading a paper, after of course going through the title and maybe the abstract, the next thing I go to is to go to the methodology of the paper. I want to know how and exactly how the research was carried out. Then thereafter, I can go to the result, which is the finding and their discussion. Then I can then pick what I need from it. So that's how I read my papers.
Thank you.
So
Any other person?
Okay, thank you.
Hello, there are two sections. If the paper is interested or not interested. What I mean is, before starting to read the whole document, I will focus on title, abstract, then check the conclusion. If the paper is relevant to my topic, then I will continue further to start from the introduction, then the result. Then if I want more information in justification, I need to read intensively on discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Those are valuable ideas, and I think we agree that people have different ways in which they read these papers, and this is how I do it. I'm not saying this is the right way. I'm just saying what works for me. The title, obviously, you have to read the title, because then that is what drew you to the paper. Otherwise, you could not have known whether the paper is relevant to you or not. So the title, the abstract, the keywords, because then the keywords will also give me an idea. Before I go further, I will read through the keywords and see whether these keywords really resonate with the information I'm looking for. Title, abstract, keywords. Then I always go direct to the conclusions and recommendations, because the conclusions are the takeaway messages. So these are the takeaway points, from our research. It was concluded that. So from the keywords, I always go to the conclusions. And then the recommendation will also, if you have a good writer, the recommendations will always give you the areas for further research. Good writers will always say, our study did this, and this. However, there's still a need to read this further, or maybe do this. So it already guides you and points you in the areas of the gaps that are still there. So title, abstract, keywords, recommendations, and conclusions and recommendations. And then I always come back most of the time to read like the last part of the introduction, because there I will always get the objectives, or the general objective of the paper. You see, the paper is written in a way that towards the end of the introduction, you will always find a good writer writing. Based on all those things, the main objective of this paper, therefore, was to investigate this, and this, using this methodology. There's always a small summary towards the end of the introduction. Now, from there, I will decide on where to go depending on why I am reading the paper. So if I was reading this paper to borrow or think about my methodology, then I'll go to the methodology part. If I was reading this paper to get the arguments and the interpretations of all that has been collected there, then I will go to the discussion section. But then I can never go there before passing through the result section. Sometimes I just scan through the result section by looking at the tables, the figures, and not into too much detail, but just to familiarize myself. Because in your field, there are figures that you just look and know. Okay, this one is about population dynamics. This one is about growth rate. This one is about so. But then I'm not telling you how to read a paper, but I will show you a tool that will help you read papers more efficiently. So that is one of the tools that I will show. Now, sorry, I'm moving around some things on the screen here. So I always tell people, when you are reviewing the literature, your literature review section should also, you need to, every time you are writing literature, you need to link the subtopic you are talking about back to the objectives of your research, or back to the bigger picture. So let's say you are talking about fish feed, the use of BSF in fish feeds. One of the subheadings is the use of black soldier fly as a protein source. Now, when you are writing to us about why black soldier fly has been used as a protein source, the protein content level, all that, you need to tie it back to the current research. Because otherwise, if you don't tell us how, you need to keep, every time you are writing each paragraph, we need to see how it is linked to the current research. So you need to tell us like the current research is now going to investigate this. You need to link your literature review to your research by referring to your research at least at one point in your writing. So when you're writing these subtopics and you're writing these paragraphs, make sure that here and there, I'm not telling you all the time, but once in a while when I'm reading it, I want to see you tying it now to the current research. So your literature needs to be tied to the current research so that it makes it relevant. Otherwise, if you're just reviewing and how do you say, reviewing and summarizing what other people had done without tying it back to your research, then I will not see why that literature is important to your research. So the literature review serves several important functions. One, it ensures that you are not reinventing the wheel, gives credit to those who have laid the groundwork for your research. We always perch on the shoulders of giants. So our ideas are always anchored on research that are done by other people before us. So the literature review section helps us because when you cite, it means you are giving credit to whoever did something before you. So it also demonstrates your knowledge of the research problem, demonstrates your understanding of the theories, the theoretical and research issues related to your research. Remember, we had the theoretical literature review and the empirical literature review. And it also demonstrates your ability to, critically evaluate relevant literature information, creates relevant, provides new theoretical insights, all these things, okay? Now, I will not talk about all those things because there's something I want to show later. Now, there's something I also want to ask you. Are you people using, how many people are using any reference management tool? Because you will do a lot of referencing, citation, referencing, and you might need to do using different styles, APA, Chicago, all those things. How many of you are using reference managers? How many of you are using manual reference? Because if there are so many people who are using manual, then I will have to show you one reference management tool called Mendeley. I will show you how to use it. But if everyone else is using, then just tell me which one you are using. Maybe in the chat, is anyone still using manual citation? So somebody is still just writing and then citing manually, and then they will go to the reference section and then list again manually. How many people are using reference managers and which ones are you using? So Mendeley, Zotero, someone is using manual. I'm seeing Zotero and Mendeley quite a bit. So, but then I'm seeing some people are still still using manual. The manual citation makes your work very difficult, and it makes writing just so hard because then you have to remember that this paper was in which folder. I have to look for the name of the name of the authors. I need to look for the year it was published. I need to look for the journal where it was published. It's a lot of work. If you are using a reference manager, then you find that once you finish your writing, you just go to the reference section just do a bit of quality check, just quality control to make sure that everything is in order, but then you don't have to write everything from the beginning. So if you don't know how to use a reference management tool, kindly find out how to use a reference manager. Now, after the literature review, we have the methodology or the approach or the methods. So the methodology, what is the difference between methodology and, because sometimes you find some research, we use what we call materials and methods. And sometimes we use the word methodology. Methodology that's the general approach. Now, the materials and methods, especially if you are coming from the natural research, like natural sciences, like fisheries and aquaculture, for example, or those others, we talk about materials and methods because this is where you are going to use to tell us which materials are you going to use and how are you going to use them and which methods, specific methods are you going to use. Now, in your research methodology, it depends on the kind of, so the methodology, the approach you are going to use could either be a survey, you are going to use an experiment, you are going to use, and even if it's a survey, kindly switch off your videos. It's a bit distracting to me. So I request that you switch off your videos. Thank you so much. So in the methodology section, you need to explain how you are going to collect data. And we said this is going to be informed by the objectives of your study. So the objectives will determine the methods you are going to use, and the objectives will also determine The objectives will determine the kind of methods you are going to use, and the objectives will also determine the data sets you are going to collect. So you need to outline the strategies for conducting the research to answer a question or realize your objectives, okay? Plan the procedures that will be used in the investigation. Review different approaches, designs, and methods for investigating your research, your area of research. Specify tools required to meet your research goals. Now, the methodology section is where I'm going to decide what methodology am I going to use. Am I going to use, in fact, it's about the methodology and even the instruments you're going to use. So let's give an example where you are going to do a survey. So are you going to do a cross-sectional study? Is it going to be a longitudinal study? Is it going to be a mixed study where you are going to collect the kind of qualitative and quantitative data? Are you going to do an experiment? If you're going to do an experiment, what are going to be your treatments, for example? What is going to be your experimental layout? All these things need to come out very clearly in your methodology. And that's why I say it's difficult for me to give one methodology that fits every research. It's not going to be possible. The only general thing I want to tell you is you go to your field and read, because you will always find people who have done research that is very close to what you are studying. Just go and study their methodology section and see if you can modify it to fit what you want. So just make sure it is clear enough that somebody who wants to do a research that is the same as yours can be able to replicate that work. If they have the same number of, the same amount of resources, they can be able to replicate your work. Because I cannot start telling you that if you are in the field of public health, this is the methodology you are going to use. If you are in the field of aquaculture, because even in aquaculture, it appears like a natural science, but then you find people who are doing socioeconomics of aquaculture. So they will employ different methodologies. They're not going to do experiments like I will do when doing RAS systems. So they're in our field, but then they're using different methodologies. So the methodology depends on the kind of data sets you are going to collect. Then that will determine the approach you are going to take. Okay. So here you are going to talk about the methods you are going to use, the tools. So if you're going to use key info and interview guides, you're going to do key focus group discussions, you're going to do structured questionnaires. You need to tell us which is the target population. Why are you targeting that population? Which is the sample size? How are you going to determine this sample size? You know, the calculations that go behind all these things. So the methodology section I might not really be able to say that this is one methodology that goes for everyone. So that depends on your field. So ideally, I just wanted to bring to your attention that it is the method you are going to use, okay? Then the time frame is just your work plan. I've seen people using Gantt charts to show that between this time and this time, I'm going to do this. Between this time and this time, I'm going to do this. So you want to be sure that your investigation is feasible within the time you have. So in experience, researchers tend to underestimate the amount of time for each activity. Check with a more experienced researcher, okay? So sometimes you find that the researchers want, it helps you in planning also, because it helps you know that between what time and what time, what kind of thing will I be doing in my research. So it helps you in your planning. So you give an overview of when you will undertake a specific activity, bi-weekly or monthly, but maybe not daily. Of course, there are some experiments, especially if you're doing an experiment, there are some times that you might need to measure or weigh or do some measurements daily, but sometimes you need to be very clear and explain, especially if it's an experiment. You need to say at what time I'll be doing what. Maybe month 1 to month 2, I'll be writing my proposal. Month 2 to month 3. So just find a good way of doing it. I will show an example of a proposal, the one that I wrote, and then maybe we can go through each just roughly. You should include time to prepare the final research product as well. So sometimes people don't plan, and especially what we call the publication plan. You find students, and for masters and PhD students, you find most of the time we are told that for Kenya, I'm giving an example of Kenyan universities, you have to publish, for masters, you have to publish one paper before you graduate. For PhD, you have to publish 2 papers. Now, imagine if you are collecting data and you have to wait until the end of it when you have your data for you to start now thinking about the publication. Then you will not have enough time to go through the peer review process and publish and graduate in time. So you need to think about your publication process or your publication plan early enough. And I help people plan their publication plan at the point of writing the proposal. Once the proposal is approved by the department or your school, by the graduate school, and you are told your proposal is good, you need to go now to the field and start collecting data. I help people start planning their publication journey at that time so that you start early enough. Otherwise, you will run late, okay? So what are the questions you need to consider when setting up your schedule or your work plan? Those are questions you can always check. And then you need to know the budget. I will not talk too much about the budget. I think these are things we know. You just write what you need and the justification of why you need it. And this is true also even for when you are writing your proposal for, and then the list of references. Now, I remember I was asking you if you do manual referencing. Some people, I saw just one person who is still doing manual referencing. If I had more than one person, then I think it could have helped me. It could have helped me. It could have helped me. It could have given me a justification to show you people how to use reference managers, but there's only one person, so maybe one person can be helped at a very personal level. The others, you're already using reference managers, so there's whatever EndNote can work for you, if Zotero can work for you, if Mendeley works for you, that one is fine. But then you just make sure that anything that you have cited in your text is in your included in your reference list. Kindly switch off your videos. Kindly switch off your videos. It's distracting. So if you have cited certain things in your text, please make sure that they are listed in your reference list. We don't want a scenario where you have a professor asking you that I've seen this, is already cited in your text, but then it's not in your reference list. So that is why a reference manager is important, because then the reference manager will automatically update your reference list with any citation without you doing a lot of things. So, and then also formatting your references, because some universities will tell you that you need to use APA, some will tell you you need to use Chicago, or depending on your field of research. So if you're going to do it manually, meeting the criteria and getting all the formatting for all these this referencing styles is very difficult manually. But if you are going to, if you do it using a reference manager, then you just click a button and then it will automatically be edited for you. So try to use a reference manager, okay? So why do proposals get rejected? I think we talked about this, the nature of the problem. If you fail to establish general significance of your work, the research plan is, if the research plan is vague and not presented in detail, if you are too ambitious, if you bite more that you can chew, if there are procedural irregularities, so like some parts are missing, or missed deadlines, or incorrect budget, something like that. Now, I want us now to stop it here for now, for a few minutes, get into general discussion, and then when we take a little break, when we come back, I will now show you the tools that can help you get literature and the ones that can help you read literature very well. I want to stop the things, the discussion on my facilitation on proposal writing here, and then we now start our discussion. And this is now open for everyone. As I said, I am here just to guide. I'm not here to show you what to do. I'm here to facilitate, because someone has to facilitate the discussion. The discussion is open. We want to get like 10 minutes of discussion, and then we have a little break, and then we come back for the tools. Anybody with a question or a comment or anything that they need to also strengthen, because as I said, we are here and all of us, I think like 90% of us have written proposals. We are at different stages. What can we maybe strengthen based on what I have shown or the discussions I have given? You know, any other comment? It could just even be just a comment or a question or anything, but I'm not answering questions. Questions will be answered by all of us here. Thank you. The floor is open. Just unmute and ask, or unmute and make a comment.
Hello.
Yes, please.
Yeah, what I wanted us to comment about, you know, when you're starting your PhD, you're told, oh, please prepare a concept, you know, paper, or do a concept presentation. And in most cases, the students, sometimes you find the institutions are silent on what should be included. for concept presentation, the comment on that.
Thank you. Yes, and I think this is one thing I have also encouraged students, even for universities that do not ask for concepts, because there's no need of going all the way, doing all the hard work of coming out the so and then you take it to a professor and they tell you, this one is not researchable. Then you come back, write another one. This is not, so it becomes, but then if you do a concept note, they can help you start shaping this concept to make it researchable, and then now you go into full-blown proposal. Who wants to comment on how, what goes into the preparation of a concept note? I will also add my voice, but I want this to come from, as I said, we are all discussing, and thank you for bringing this to our attention, because we assume that people go straight into writing proposals, but then they need to start by developing their concept first. And we talked about the conceptualization of this idea. Now, who wants to give us an idea of what goes into a concept note? As I said, nothing is right, nothing is wrong. We are here to all, we are having, a discussion so that we can be able to learn for all of us. I not pointing out people, sometimes it's difficult for me to point out. That's why I always want just people to volunteer. Just volunteer, and it could be something very little, but then it will start now the discussion. I want us to have a discussion. Anybody, we are talking about a concept note here. What goes into a concept note? If somebody tells you they want to develop a concept note and they tell you, okay, maybe can you guide me? Has anyone of you ever developed a concept note? What was it like? What went into it? I'm not saying you should have done the right one. I'm just saying, just give us an idea so that all of us can be able to learn from one another. I said I will add my voice, but then I want it to come from you before I also add my voice.
Hello.
Hello.
A concept note, what I understand is that you are giving a brief description of what you want to do in your study. Like you give the topic, what the topic is, the objectives, the methodology, and how you are going to analyze, just in a brief way.
Thank you. It's like a summary of the proposal, but just giving just from the word, it's a concept. So you are giving a note. So this is the concept. This is the problem. This is the title I want to study. This is why I think it's important for me to study this. And this is a small, short background of, where this problem is coming from. This is how the objectives I have. This is the methodology I'm going to use, but maybe not into too much details of the methodology I'm going to sample 55 people from 55 backgrounds. No, you just, we're going to do a survey using structured questionnaires or all this. It's just a bit of a summary. But then, can someone else give their idea? Because I will give a general description later on. But yes, you told me, you said it's giving painting up a picture of what really you want to study. Anyone else? Hello.
Hello. Yes. Are you still continue with the concept note topic?
Yes.
You have changed?
Concept note.
From my experience, most of the time, what I see, the concept note mostly have the same introduction, objective, and it ends up to the method. But the most critical part, which is mostly insisted in the concept note, it is in the introduction and the significance of the study. Other part can be in short form, just a short form, but not necessarily in details. Thank you.
Now, when you are still here, I just want to ask, how long should it be?
1 page, 2 page maximum.
Now that gives you an idea. That gives an idea of how summarized it should be. But then, from what you are saying, it means that it needs to. You remember when I was telling you to write your research story? You remember
yes.
when I started, I said you need to write your PhD or your master's story, because then if you already had written your master's story, then it's just about extrapolating this story and making it more scientific, because the story I was talking about was a very plain story, just, you know, a narrative. But then when you are now, you can easily now use this and extrapolate it and make it a concept note. Now, as you have put it rightly, the concept note gives us the title. Now, the introduction, in the introduction, you make sure you make whoever is going to read your work understand that you understand the background of this problem. So you have a title, you have an introduction, then there are some universities that will tell you that in your concept, we want to see the statement of the problem and the significance, that they have to be very clear so that you know that you understand the problem you are dealing with. So the title, the introduction, the statement of the problem, the significance, and then you need to tell us the methods you are going to use. So I'm going to collect data using these methodologies, and make sure it's most of the time, as you've said, 2 pages. In my university, 2 pages is the maximum. So you are told if you go beyond 2 pages, they will say that concept note is not concise enough. So 2 pages. Imagine within 2 pages, you need to give us the title, the background, some objectives. And because it's a concept, these objectives might change, but you need to give us an idea so that we can be able to guide you, because the concept note is meant for me to be able to guide you. So you write objectives, even if they are not very clear, because that is will form our point of discussion. So you have a title, an introduction, some objectives, the statement of the problem, the significance of your study, and the methods that you will use. For me, that is it. That is all that you need for a concept. But then some universities will tell you that you will need to give an indication of the literature you are going to review. So you might not have reviewed all the literature, but you say literature review will concentrate on, all literature will be reviewed under this specific subheading. So you subheading 1, 2, 3, you just list them down there. And then if you are generous enough, you can go ahead and do a conceptual framework if you feel like in your field it is required, because then that also gives this person an idea that you understand what you are doing. But that's a bit more detailed conceptual. If you have these variables already, then you can just see direct link and show us the direct link between these variables. In certain fields, like in the field of social sciences, you are told you have to give us a conceptual framework for us to understand where this concept note is coming from, so that we understand your concept. But it has to be within 2 pages max. In my university, you are told you have to keep it to 2 pages. Title, introduction, objective, justification, which statement of the problem which has to be summarized, the justification which has to be summarized, the methods you're going to use must also be summarized as much as possible. Any other question? Because we need to take a break before we come back for the tools that I want to show you. So we have any other comment? It could not necessarily a question, it could just be a comment. And then, yeah.
Hello.
Yes, Dan.
Yes, thank you for your presentation. My comment is on maybe just a small addition. There is something I read called a writer's block. And I read that because when I was developing my proposal, I reached somewhere where I couldn't move. Like I had actually to stop for almost a week. And I find online that writer's block is something that is very common among researchers, where you reach a point where you kind of stuck in your mind and ideas are not flowing. So ideally, your mind is kind of blocked. And the best way to come out of that is once you've broken into subtopics, maybe you are doing your literature review and you have different subtopics. It's not a must that you follow those one subtopic after the other. You can begin with, if you have them maybe 1 to 10, you can begin with number 10, you come to number 5, you come to number 1, not necessarily in a logical flow manner. And I think that one helped me a lot to progress with my proposal. That's my addition. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Dan. 3 days ago, I was having a conversation with a student who is in Mauritius, and that is one question she asked me. She told me, Nicholas, sometimes I start reading. There are days when I read and get and write very well, but then there are days when I look at my computer and I don't know, I just cannot think, and the ideas are not ideas are not really just flowing. So how do I deal with that? I think part of what you've told us is very right, that once you have broken, and that is why it is important that you break your work into manageable chunks. You could be having a very big work, and if you are looking at your proposal as I have to write the literature review section today, I want to start writing the literature review section today, it looks like a very big thing, and it's very easy for you. Out of fright, your mind can just decide, I'm not going to operate today, and there's nothing you are going to do about it. I will work when I want. But then if you have broken them into very, into manageable chunks like you've given, you have broken them into smaller sections, then sometimes following them logically also, your brain also thinks like, I have to finish this one, then go to the next one. Then you look through your document and realize, out of 10, I've only done one. Then your brain starts just not working. So as you said, you can now start jumbling them around and look at, okay, maybe this one looks a bit easier. I already have some literature on this, so let me put this together, put this. As you write, jumbling around, you might end up making some headway. Somebody's asking, where do you get subheadings? I've seen somebody asking, how do you get the subtopics in the literature review? Who wants to tackle this one? How do you get or do the subtopics in the literature review section? Because I said that literature review is done under certain subtopics. He's asking, how do you decide or how do you get the subtopics?
Hello.
Yes, Dorcas.
I think from the conceptual framework, you have variables that you want to study, and they are going to lead you into getting the subtopics.
Thank you so much. A short but a very concise answer. Yes, Paris? Paris? Paris, your hand is up. Okay. So Paris will Paris, just talk when you are able to. I am seeing your hand is up. I was giving you the chance to say something. Okay. I think maybe she's not hearing me. So when you want to get your subtopics, it has to be guided by your conceptual framework. That is, if you are in the social sciences, but if in natural sciences, where sometimes you don't have just these ones, they have to be guided by the variables you are. So you could have a variable, but under this variable, there are some other elements within the variable. So if you are talking about fish growth, for example, that could be a variable you are looking at. But then you cannot just talk about fish growth in general. So you could talk about fish growth, but under fish growth, what is important? There is what we call the length-weight relationship, for example, the feed conversion ratio, the daily or how do you call them, specific growth param, all these things. So just make sure that you dissect the variables and then find the elements under each variable and just review the literature under that. Somebody's asking, what is okay, somebody is asking yeah, people are also explaining further. I think it's a good thing. So someone is giving that the letter of intent is like motivation information. You aim to apply for certain opportunity, your education background, your experiences. Yeah. So I think that's true. So the concept note is where you are now saying, okay, this is what I intend to do. But then letter of intent is, why is this important to me? Do I have skills that I want to polish further? And that is why I'm interested in doing this. So you are expressing your intent and you are expressing your desire to do that. Okay, so yeah, someone is saying that the subtopics can also be guided by your research questions too. So you could have research questions that you have certain research questions. So those research questions can also, so objectives, research questions can also help you get that. So I want us to take a break and then we come back. Maybe Zeni will guide us on how long the break will take so that we come back and look at the tools. And also, of course, we still have time to discuss a few things about the proposal, but then I'm coming back to now show you the tools that can help you in your literature search and literature review. Over to you, Kevina.
Thank you so much, Nicholas. That has been a very insightful session. We're going to have a 10-minute break. I hope that's going to be enough to grab a cup of water or coffee. Thank you. So we'll resume at 10, okay, let's say 10:40, 10:50. Thank you.
10:50. So get out of your chair, stretch, open the window, get some, just stretch. So we are meeting at 10:50. Thank you. Welcome back. Welcome back, good people. You just raise your hand if you're in the room so that I know that I'm not talking to myself. At least that will help me know whether people are back or not, because we are going to the next phase of the training, and I would want everybody to. Okay, I'm seeing Kevina is here. Dorcas is here. There are only 2 people here, unfortunately. Just raise your hand if you are here. Mercy, Josephine. So we are like 5 of us here. Grace, Paris is here. Nancy, Esther is here. I'm seeing the Tiva. I'm seeing Ecor. Yeah, so let's assume everyone is here. I'm seeing so many people are here. I'm seeing hands going up in the air. Thank you so much, and I hope you had some little break. I know people are doing a lot of things, so that's why we also don't want to keep you here forever. So the second part of this, but also just remember, if you still have comments about proposal writing, we will still be allowed to discuss them. But I just want us to go into, I know people get literature from several places. There are people who showed me that I think in the chat they were writing PubMed. I don't know which other one. I'll just check again. I saw PubMed. I'll check. I'm seeing Google Scholar, PubMed. Some have restricted access. I don't know where other people get their information, their papers from. I've seen only, let's say, PubMed and Google Scholar. Any other site where you get your work, your papers from, maybe put it in the chat, because then I'm going to show you one. There are several of them, but I'm going to demonstrate just one, which we have found very useful, because it gives you access not only to papers, but also to grant information, and also data sets, and also clinical trials. Clinical key. Science Direct. I see people are getting papers from several places. This one I've never seen. From organizations such as ministries and UN. Yes, I've seen people getting literature from various sources. But what is the challenge? What challenges do you meet when trying to access literature or trying to access information from these sites? What challenges do you face? What are some of the challenges that you face when trying to access literature from these sites? Just write down a few challenges, 1 or 2. Most good articles need pay up. So yeah, so most of them, you find a very good article, but it's hidden behind a paywall. So you are told you have to pay a certain number of dollars, subscriptions, and accessibility. Yeah, I think this is one thing that almost everyone is now. It's the same thing that we need to make science open. So that's why we are now campaigning for what we call open science, and open access is one pillar of open science. So that's why people are really talking about open science. So I'm going to show you one site where you can choose only to get open access journals. You can using certain filters. So there's a lot of filters in that site. So I'll go straight into it. There are two ways into on how you can get into dimensions. It's called Dimensions AI. Now there are two ways. The first way is you just Google dimensions. Let me just 1 minute so that I can be able to set up something here. Okay, so the first option, I want to show you the two options. The first option is where you just go onto the internet like this and Google dimensions AI. When you Google dimensions AI, you see this is what comes. Dimensions, the most advanced scientific research database. When you click on it, you will see what comes up. Now, if you don't have an account, of course, it will tell you to create an account, which is just a simple thing. You just create an account and then you log in to that account. So once you log into the account, this is the landing page. This is what you are going to have. So you are going to have 143 million publications where you can choose from. Now, this version is a bit limited in a way because then here you can only access information on publications and data sets. But grants, patents, clinical trials, and policy documents you cannot access if you approach it this way. So if you approach it this way, you still can be able to get publications and you have the filters. But this method, even the filters are not as many as the other method that I'm going to show you. Now, this is the first way. So just go on Google, type Dimensions AI, you come here, log in, and then you can now be able to get publications and even data sets. Now, I will stop sharing this one and share the other option. Now, the best option and the one that I recommend is where you will, why is it that I'm not seeing? Okay, sorry, let me just open one of the sites that I want. Okay, so the other option is where you will come on Google here, come onto Google, and then search Research for Life. Research for Life. All universities and all research organizations in Africa have credentials to Research for Life. So if you're in a university, go to your librarian and ask them for the credentials for Research for Life. Tell them, I want to log into Research for Life. All universities and all research institutions should have their own unique password to Research for Life. So then you just click on Research for Life, then you can log into Research for Life. Some universities in Kenya already even have dimensions already embedded on their website directly. So you don't even need to go through Research for Life. When you go to your university library, online library, you will find dimensions as one of the databases there. I'm not sure which university has that. But then I'm just showing you that if your university has not really embedded Research for Life, if there's no direct link to Research for Life, or not Research for Life, but if there's no direct link to dimensions from your university library, then you have to go through Research for Life. Once you go through Research for Life, then you just log in. You will come after clicking on that, then just come and access content. Once you come to access content, you will be required to log in before you access content. So you will have, each university has its own unique credentials. So these are my own unique, the unique credentials for the university. So you might, I'm not allowed to share them. So just go to your university, ask your librarian for credentials for Research for Life, log into Research for Life. Once you log into Research for Life, this is what you are going to have. Let me just see what is here. So when you log into Research for Life, I don't know what screen you are seeing. Are you seeing the screen that is written, Welcome to Research for Life, that has content up here? No, Google some Zoom.
Yes,
Sometimes you share and then it moves. Okay,
yeah, it's there.
So
It's clear.
once you log into Research for Life, what you need to do is come under content. So log into Research for Life, come under content, and then go to databases. Content, databases. When you get to databases, you will scroll down. It's still loading. I think it's slow just because I'm also sharing my screen and I'm still using the internet to load. But then it will allow you to scroll down under databases. So we went under content, we clicked on databases, scroll down to dimensions, and then select dimensions. You see, we are still back in dimensions, but then when we approach it through Research for Life, we will be able to access publications, data sets, grants, patents, clinical trials, and even policy documents. Those ones were not there when we just Googled directly. So when you Google directly, you can only access publications and data sets, but you cannot be able to see all this other information, grants, patents, clinical trials, and policy documents. These ones will be gray, so you will not be able to access them if you access dimensions directly without going through Research for Life. But if you go through Research for Life, you are going to get all this. Now, the other thing that I want to show you that will help you are the filters. On the left, there are several filters. So you can filter by publication year, by researcher, if you know a researcher, by research organization, by even country, funder, research category, publication type, source title, journal list, and open access. I want us to start by year. We are filtering by year. I want to show you how far back it goes. Imagine we have papers that were, we can go back to as far as 1665. So if you are doing literature search and you are doing like comparative study, literature review, or you are doing systematic literature review, then you can go back to 1988 or 1899 and find papers that were published around that time and compare with what is happening right now. So it's a very good database for comparative analysis. Now that is one. So if you want to get only literature that were published between 2020 to 2024, you just click in those circles in front of the age of the years, and then you limit. So when you click on limit to, why is it taking me back here? Okay, so you remember we have clicked on the years we want. Now, when we click on limit to, it's now only giving us papers that were published between 2020 and 2024, and we have 28 million papers. That one we have only filtered by year. Let me clear that filter. I'll clear that filter. Now, we can also filter by the country, okay? So let's say we only want papers from Kenya. Just come down here, type the word Kenya, select Kenya, and then limit to Kenya. So we can also filter by year. So you only want papers that are in Kenya, or you want to do papers in Uganda or Tanzania, you just type so if you want to do Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania, you select the countries that you want, just select the countries you want and limit to those countries. It will only give you papers from those countries, okay? Now, let me close this filter again and show you that we can also filter by so let's say you want from a specific university. So let's say we want researchers, we want research output from University of Nairobi. Or which university do we use? Nominate one university, please. Anybody?
KU.
Kenyatta University. I'm told this is the best university in Kenya.
Yes.
I expected that. Okay, so we only get here. We are only going to get information from the University of from Kenyatta University. So we have that 3,000 publications from this university. We have 384 data sets, 126 grants, 16 patents. We have 19 clinical trials. Okay. Now, this one is under, so when you filter, you can filter now the way you want. And then we want to now check from Kenyatta University, which researchers are there. So you can just click there and it will list the researchers from University of, who have published anything about from University of Nairobi, from Kenyatta University. So we have Reina, Willis, I don't know, Busman. Then we have Grace Njeri Njoroge. It depends. It's arranged on the number, depending on the number of publications they have with that affiliation. So I guess these two people, the first two people have been working together because the number of papers are almost the same. So like they have been working together. So it arranges for you the researchers. So if you want works by this researcher, you can easily just get that. Imagine this is just simple. And then you can also look at where are these researchers publishing? Where are they publishing their work? Just come to source title here, and you will see where they are publishing their work. Most of them are publishing in Research Square, +1, all this. So this is where they publish their work. How many research work from from Kenyatta University are open access? You can just come here and see the ones that are open access. All of them are here, the open access papers. Now, those filters, you can now do that filters, and you can also just decide, okay, I want to only see not publications, but I want to see grants. Okay, so I want to see not publications, but grants from Kenyatta University, the grants that are there. So these are the grants that are now running, 2004 to 2026. These are the grants that are running. So if you find any that is interesting, you can easily click on it. You can see who is implementing it. You can easily reach out to them, partner with them. So this is why this site is important. For data sets, if you want to get data sets, maybe there are some people who collected some data, then they did not analyze the whole of it. So they have decided to put this on the internet so that somebody else can use it to write their work. You can come here, get data sets, download the data sets, analyze them, you write whatever you want to write with them, as long as you cite where the data sets came from. There is no problem with that. So there are so many filters that you can use on this site. Now, after applying all your filters, of course, you can always, the one that I want us to focus on is research categories. So you can do your research, your literature search based on your field of research. So they are here. Which field of research do we select? Which one?
Health sciences.
Health sciences. Which specific area of health sciences are we talking about here?
Nursing.
Huh?
Nursing.
So we can talk about nursing here. So we want, it's not, okay, so let's just click on nursing. So we want papers that are in the field of nursing. See, we have over 1 million papers in the field of nursing, but then we can now apply the filter here and say, okay, in the field of nursing, we only want papers that were published from 2022 to 2024. So how many papers do we have in the field of nursing? We have 95 papers that were published in the field of nursing. Then you can now come and play around with other filters. Okay, I only want papers from Kenya. I only want papers from a specific university. So you can play around with these other filters. But then even after that, you are still allowed to put keywords to help you search. What keywords? The people who said nursing, we are looking for papers, but on what specific keywords of nursing?
Critical care.
Critical care. In a country or just critical care?
Critical care.
Do you want us to base it on a country or just critical care in general? Wherever you can get the data, that's fine.
Yeah.
So you put in your keywords and then you hit enter, then we will see what will come. So we are in nursing, critical care, between the years of 2022 to 2024. These are the papers we have. Now you just scan through and see if you find any paper that interests you. Now I want you to help me on that other side to demonstrate. I want you to see, I don't know whether, if you find any paper that you think is interesting to the research you are looking at, then I will show something based on that paper. Which paper do we choose? Which one do you think is interesting?
The first one.
The relationship between nursing job satisfaction and missed nursing care in critical care units.
Yes.
Ah, okay. I will not ask the reason why, but fine. Now, if you find a paper that is interesting, when you click on it, it will take you directly. It will give you the option where you can be taken directly to the site where that paper is, and you can also be able to download that paper. Are we clear up to there? Now, let me go back and show you something. I didn't like the way that paper was. It's a preprint, so there's something I want to show you with a paper that is not preprint. I'm seeing most of these are preprint. Okay. Okay, let's pick this paper here. Now you see, I'm telling you, I was giving you an example. So let's say an analysis of pharmaceutical care for critical patients in an adult, whatever. Now, if you select this paper, when you click on this arrow here, it can take you to where you can download this paper and read if you want. But then there is associated publication. It also gives you, if this paper has been cited by someone, it will show you the citations, and it also show you all the citations that these people used when researching, when writing their paper. So you can easily also just evaluate their citations, and those citations will be active links, so you can easily click on a citation. So in literature search, there's something called snowballing. So where from one paper, it links you to another paper, links you to another paper, and then just because of one good paper, you can now be able to be led to other good papers without you going around, leaving the site and going elsewhere. So that is one thing that you need to do. Now, are you seeing some green button on the side of my computer? I don't know whether someone is seeing it. Are you seeing something green here and a white padlock?
Yes. Yes.
Who knows what that is? Okay, this one is an add-on to a browser add-on. So let's say if you are using Chrome or you're using Mozilla, just go and put an extension called unpaywall, U-N-paywall, unpaywall. Unpaywall as an extension, if you search, you will find it. It helps, it scans all the internet for open access papers. So if you have a paper, if you go to a site, you can go to a site where a paper was published, and then you realize maybe it is restricted on that site. But maybe there's somewhere on the internet where that paper is free, where you can download it. What unpaywall will do, it will look for all over the internet where you can download that paper for free. And if you find that this button is green, it means that there's somewhere where that paper can be downloaded for free, and you just click on that button and it will download that paper for you. Does that make sense? Oh, okay. That does make your work easier.
Yes, yes.
You can go to a site and find that this paper is restricted, so I might not be able to download it here. But if you have unpaywall, unpaywall will be there. Anytime you search for papers, you will find unpaywall because it's added, it's an extension. So it will be following you around. So anytime you see it is green, it means that maybe the paper is restricted here, but there's a place somewhere that I don't know, but where the paper is free and I can download it. So what you do, you just click on that button. It will direct you specifically to where that paper can be downloaded for free. You can go and download that paper. Now, that is how you can use dimensions to get papers that you want to read. So just go and play around with dimensions. It has, I've shown you how you can use it to get grant information if you want to see the grants that are there. So even if you're in the field of nursing critical care, we can remove this here, but then we still have nursing and critical care. If you want to see the grants that are currently running in the field of nursing, just click on grants. You will see the active grants. If you want, that is clinical, that is nursing and critical care. When you click on grants, you can easily just find the grants that are there. But then for grants, it will be a good thing to come back here and search by territory. So you want to say, okay, I only want the grants that are in Kenya. So you come here and type the word Kenya, because that is what will be interesting for you. You want to see which research activities are happening in my field right now in Kenya. There's one grant that will be that ran between 2020 2019. So we can remove maybe critical care and just remain with yeah. So we have 5 grants. One, I think there was, okay, most of them have ended right now. There's one that is ending this year. Okay, so you can play around and find what, Esther, I see your hand is up. Yes, Esther.
Thank you for all the insights. I just wanted a clarification on the paywall ad.
Mhm.
Did you say we need to click on something to make sure it comes to our browser, or it's automatically there?
It's not automatically there. It is an add-on. You know, extensions, browser extensions are things you add to your browser. So you just go and add extension. There is maybe somebody can help you add an extension. Browsers, we have browser extensions that help us. You have to add it actively. So when you go, just type and paywall, you will find it. It's there. It's a browser extension that you will get. It's called an paywall.
Okay.
So once you add it to your browser, it will be an extension that will be there. So every time you are searching for a literature on the internet, you will see. So you will see if it is gray, then it means that paper, there's nowhere that paper is open access. But if you see it is green, it means that there is somewhere on the internet where that paper is open access and it can be downloaded. So you just click on the green button and it will be okay. So just go and add it as an extension to your Chrome or browser you have.
Thank you, I've done it.
Okay, see, so if you add an extension, it will really make your work easy. Now, that is how you can use dimensions. I think I've shown you a few things about dimensions. The only thing you need to do now is when you are looking for papers, of course, you can also go down here and put one of the criteria you can put is now that I want only papers that are open access. So you can come down here after doing all your search and filter and say, just filter here and say all open access and limit to. So it means that all the papers you will get will be open access because you have put that as a criteria. So you know that if I get a paper that will be open access, I'll just be able to download and read it. So that is how dimensions work. There are several other databases that I'm not really going to demonstrate here because there are so many. So the dimensions is there. You can also use Lens. You can also use Core. So many people use PubMed. People use so many things. But I like dimensions because it gives you the chance also to download data sets. It also gives you the chance to work around grants, patents, clinical trials, especially those in the field of, but also those who want to look at policy documents. Maybe you are in the field of policy and you say, okay, I only want to look at policy documents that are coming from these different areas. You can easily access those policy documents, everything on one database. And that's why I like dimensions. It's a very diverse site. Does somebody have a question on dimensions before I go to Scholastic?
Hi, Nicholas, I have a question. I hope you can hear me now.
Sorry, I can't. You are like, I think either you are far from your microphone.
Yeah, now I'll see. Thanks for sharing all the insights. So the question here is, I think, how do you link this back to the citation manager? So if I wanted to get all this PDF, if I'm doing a systematic review and I have, okay, first one question. If you're doing a systematic review, is there a way of sampling all the documents together from this database? Two, how do you link your documents to your citation manager from these dimensions?
Yeah, so from dimensions, if you have a paper, I think there is no like direct way of linking this. The only thing is you can, when you have a paper, like let's say we have clicked on this paper and I want to take it to where I want to take it mentally, so I can easily just export citation and then export it now as a RIS file or BibTeX. Are you seeing here?
Yeah.
Are you seeing on the side?
Yes.
So do you know how when you download this as a BibTeX or as a RIS file, your citation manager is able to extract the information and will be able to cite. Do you understand how those things work?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, so you can easily just export citation as a BibTeX or a RIS file, and then now it's taken the other side. So you can do it for, the only thing is you cannot do it for several papers at once and then export all at once. That is only possible with another site that I'm not going to demonstrate. It's called the Lens. But here you have to do, when you see a good paper, just click on it, take it as a BibTeX. So you can have like a folder where you can download all those BibTeX and then you now upload them once onto your reference manager, and then you can now be able to use them. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Any other person? I saw Paris had her hand up, or is it Paris who has asked a question?
Yes, Nicholas, I'm the one who asked. Thanks.
Ah, okay. So somebody is saying I need to repeat the country option. The country option is if you are going to use a filter here, you want to research for papers by country or data sets, whatever. You want to use country as a filter. You just come to country or territory, type the country you want. Under more, when you see up here, your country has not appeared, you know, they arrange these countries depending on the number of publications that are coming from those countries. So you look at the United States, there are 23 million, China is 9 million, just like that, like that. So if your country is like Kenya, where, because Africa only contributes like 3% of the publications of the whole world. So you need to, under more, you click on more and then type the country you want. So let's say Nigeria. The country will just come. Then you click on Nigeria, it will already have highlighted it, and then you limit. So all the information you are going to get are not necessarily all from Nigeria, but they must either have some affiliation. They must be relevant to Nigeria. So you will not, it's not a must that all of them will be from Nigeria, but you must find that either there's a university from Nigeria that was part of the study, or a researcher from Nigeria, or it has to be linked to Nigeria in a certain way. So then, based on the country, now you have the country. So you decide, what do I want? I've used the country as a filter, but then do I want to look at data set? Do I want to look at grants, patents, clinical trials, or policy documents? So here we've only used the country. Then you can now go ahead and say, okay, I want to refine my research further. I want to look at who is funding research in Nigeria. So you click on funder, and then it's also arranged on the number. So you have the Bill Gates Fund, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, National Natural Science Foundation of China is funding a lot of research in Nigeria, European Commission. So these ones can also help you. So that is how you use basically the country filter option. Any other question? The other thing is I also want to bring to your attention that it's not possible to be able to grasp like 100% of how to use these sites in one training and just in these few minutes. So the best thing is always to go and play around with the site, just check around, just go and check what it looks like, and you'll be able to find how powerful this is.
Nicholas, I have one question.
Yes.
So when you started initially, it's an assumption that most institutions have paid for Search for Life. So what happens if you don't belong to the institution that have been paid for Search for Life? What is the procedure for individual? Is it affordable? Is it are you able to register as an individual and log in?
Research for Life does not have individual. It's linked to universities and research institutions in this part of the world. So what happens is if you have a former university or a former place you are working, and you can, because once you have the credentials, you can even be able to use it off campus. So once you have the credential, you can use it even when you are not within the campus where these credentials were given. So even if you are just in your house, if you have these credentials, you should still be able to log in and use it. But then there is no individual subscription that you can say, okay, I'm going to have my own subscription to Research for Life. No, it is given to universities and research institutions in the sub-Saharan Africa region. So once you do that, you will be able to access all this. So you can, if you have a university or if you have somebody who can help you access those credentials, you should be able to use it. Anybody with any other question before I show you the next tool, and then we can see how we can have a few minutes for general discussion.
I have a question, please.
Yes.
Yeah, we also have Hinari, which they say is an online library. So is this Research for Life, you know, based on
Hinari
this
is on Research for Life as well.
Oh, so
It's also,
what's that? Because I was
sorry?
meant to understand Hinari is like an online library. So
No,
then what is
it's
Research for Life?
it's not really like Research for Life is not a library. It's like a, how do you say? It's like a database where you get all things that are related to research and funding in one place if you are coming from the continent of Africa.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I've heard it. It's a database. Thanks.
Yeah, so let me just give you an example, because when you come to, let's just see what is on Research for Life. I'm just going to go back and show. So on this database, you have so many things. Now, when you come to Research for Life, in fact, when we just go back home, you will see that here we have a lot of things happening. So you see, we have under collections, we have Hinari, we have Agora. You remember these ones we started using long time ago. So this is where we have the largest collection for biomedical and health literature. So you can just play around with it, but I was singling out dimensions because it has access to grants, it has access to the clinical trials, and also policy, and also data sets that you might not find in those other collections and also those other databases. So Research for Life is a big thing that has so many things in it. So yeah, this is just one of the databases within, because even when you go under databases here, under databases, you still have all these databases. Imagine all this. There's the base, there's environmental science collection, we have Gazettes Africa, Google Scholar, all these databases are here. But I only singled out Dimensions because it has like more options for you to be able to use. And even publishers here, you have the different publishers if you want to do it under different languages. So you can just go and check on what is there on the website. Any question before I stop presenting on Dimensions? Okay, I will stop sharing Dimensions, and I will now talk about what we now want to see, we have gotten all those papers from Dimensions. Now we want to get to a point where we want to start now reading our papers. But then we have so many papers to read, but we have very short time. How do we go around it? That is where Scholastic comes in. Now, let me show you what Scholastic looks like as an AI tool that helps you read and contextualize. And especially if English is not your first language, sometimes you read a paper and you don't really get the context of the paper. So, Scholastic will help you read smarter, just as it has been written here. So the problem is too much information, but not enough time. That is the problem that we have. So a universal challenge for researchers is, imagine over 2 million papers were published in 2018 alone, and preprint servers have grown by over 300% since 2015. So you can imagine the amount of published papers and preprints that are on the internet. Now, researchers typically spend 45 minutes reading a paper. If you're going to read and critique and find that, the average researcher reads around 250 papers in a year. Now, the solution is articles. Scholastic now provides the solution by distilling articles into flashcard, summary flashcards. I will show you how Scholastic distills articles into summary flashcards. Now, Scholastic is your virtual research assistant. It reads papers and breaks them down into easy to digest, interactive summary cards. Scholastic surfaces relevant reference facts in seconds and enriches them with clear definitions and broader context. You can store hundreds of summaries, links to, you can link them to cited context, tables, diagrams, and more in your own library with Scholastic. Now, 5 ways that Scholastic helps researchers. How does Scholastic help researchers? It identifies and explains key concepts. We will see all this. It highlights most important points. We will see. It creates a cited summary. So we'll see the scholastic summary, what it looks like. It finds and links to all cited sources. So if you have anything that is cited, you'll find the link directly where you can just click and then it takes you there. It can help you also extract figures, tables, and references. Okay? So it cuts reading time by 60% and makes complex information easier to digest. So 125 hours will be saved per researcher per year. So that is 1 billion hours saved for researchers worldwide. Okay, I don't know what we can do with 1 billion hours, but yeah, we can listen to music or we can do more research. Now, with Scholastic, you will be able to read smarter. But then there's no, it's pointless if I just show you that without showing you the power of Scholastic. How can you now use Scholastic to read the papers that you got from whatever source? So if you got them from Dimensions, fine. If you got them from Google Scholar, fine. If you got them from PubMed, no problem. Where you got them is not a big problem. How do you now read them in a way that is contextualized and in a way that makes it easier? Now, I will share my screen and show you two options where how you can get to reach Scholastic. When you go onto the internet, I'm just sharing my screen. I'm looking for the right screen. This one. Yeah. So when you go on the internet, just type Scholastic like this. When you type on Scholastic, you will find the first option, Scholastic Online Summarizing Tool or flashcard generator. This is the option that you want to select. So let us select that option. Okay. Now, when you click on that option, you have the option of trying Scholastic for free. You can try Scholastic for free, and that will allow you to summarize 3 papers per day. So if you are doing the free version, you can be able to summarize 3 papers in a day. I will show you how the summary is done, don't worry. But you can be able to summarize 3 papers in a day. But if you want to summarize more than 3 papers in a day, if you want to summarize as many papers as you want in a day, then you must get the premium version. Now, the premium version, there is a negotiation between TCC Africa and Scholastic where researchers from Africa can now be able to get the premium version at $4.99. $4.99, I think is around 600 shillings or I don't know how much, but then that is now the value, the amount that you will use to get the premium version of Scholastic. And I will show you how powerful that premium version of Scholastic is. So you need $4.99 to be able to get the premium version. You can just also always reach out to TCC Africa and they will link you up and show you how you can get pay for the premium version. That is $4.99. I want to show you how powerful that one is. So what I will do is I will log in here. And once I log in, I will show you how powerful it is. I'll log in. So I'm logging into my premium account. Now, when you log into your premium account, this is what Scholastic will look like. When you log into your premium account, this is what it looks like. So you have your libraries here. And these libraries, you can also even share libraries with other people. We are coming there. But then when you come here, the first thing you do is you create your library. It's the same way when you want to, how do you say, when you are downloading papers from the internet and using them for your research, you don't just go around scattering papers everywhere. I know you always create somewhere where you say, okay, if I want papers on this specific topic, this is where I will go, okay? So when you create library, just give it a name. Which name do we give it? Somebody? Anybody, what is the name of our library?
My library.
Okay, our library. Well, that was a good way of okay. Now, okay, we have created a library called our library. Now, within our library, we can create folders. So the folders can be of specific topics. What topic? Nothing. That is an example. We can create another folder. Another folder may be called food security. Okay, so we have our libraries, and we have our library, and then we have our folders. How do we bring papers into our folder? Because if we have a folder and it is empty, it's useless. It's not helping us. There are two ways. There are several ways. One of them is you can click to import. So you just click, it will allow you to upload. So you can choose your files. When you click on choose file, then it allows you, it will take you to the to your computer. Then you can upload papers. Just bring the papers onto Scholastic, and they will come onto Scholastic. Or if you have a URL here, you can type the URL. So if you have the DOI of the link to any paper, you can click here, paste the DOI or the URL there. Scholastic will upload that paper onto Scholastic. Or if you have it stored somewhere on the internet, so maybe you have it stored on Google Drive or Dropbox or OneDrive or Zotero, you can be able to click on that, and then Scholastic will import all these papers from the Google Drive or wherever they are on the internet, and then it will bring them to Scholastic, and you will still be able to use them. So those are the ways, and you can also still just copy Word and copy text and import it there and put it there, and it will still be able to. You can also, you see, you can put some text here, and it will still be able to work. Now, I'm not going to do all that because then that will take time. I'm going to show you an example with. No, the other thing that I want to show you is here. When you are on Scholastic, you can go and when you are searching, you can also create what we call RSS feeds. So let's say you are on PubMed. There are people who look for papers on PubMed. I'm just going to show you something. I was showing you how to upload papers onto Scholastic. So I've told you onto your library or onto your folder. I have shown you that you can do all those things. The other thing you see, there is something called RSS subscription. So we know there are some sites generate what we call RSS feeds. Now, this RSS feeds is, if you subscribe to a certain RSS feed, it means that every time there is information that is linked, that is related to your RSS feed, it will bring it to your library automatically. You don't need to do anything. Your library will just keep growing. Let me just show you. You go onto the PubMed. What are we looking for on PubMed? Maybe somebody can give me an idea what we need to search for on PubMed. I will stop sharing that, and then I'll share my PubMed screen. I want to show you how you can use RSS feeds to update your library. So you don't need to do anything. The RSS will be bringing papers automatically to your library. Of course, you will be notified in your email every time a paper comes to your library, and then you can go and just evaluate it. What are we searching for on PubMed? What do we want?
Infection prevention.
Infection prevention. Infection prevention. So let's say we have infection prevention as what we are searching. Now, we can decide that these are the papers we have. So we want to say, okay, we have infection prevention. We have several papers. So we can create an RSS. Are you seeing create RSS here? When you create RSS, it means that anytime there is something on infection prevention, this RSS feed will be able to bring it to will be able to bring it to your, how do you say, to your library directly. So once you click on create RSS feed, just click on create RSS feed, there's this link now. So when you copy that link, I'll close this. I will stop sharing this and I will share. I've copied the link that I have, the RSS link that I have created. I'll go back to Scholastic. Let me just look for the, I think I've lost that screen. Okay, I'll go back. I've copied the RSS link. I'll go back to Scholastic here, and then on this site, on this folder, I will just click on RSS subscriptions, and then subscribe to your RSS feed here. So I'll just click there and then paste the RSS feed that I collected the other side, and then you can click on email updates so that every time an email, a paper is brought there, you can be updated, but I don't want to disturb me, so that's why I'm switching it off. So once we put RSS, we subscribe to RSS feed, papers will just be coming. So every time there's a new paper, then you click on subscribe. I want us, we still don't have any paper there right now, but I want us to, as we keep learning, you will see that papers will just start coming. We still don't have any paper here, but we have subscribed to an RSS feed on our library that was called, that folder was called nursing. We still don't have any paper here, but we have subscribed to an RSS feed. So you will see what will happen. Papers will start coming there automatically. Now, that is one way you can subscribe to. You see, already we have one paper here. We have not brought it, but the RSS feed has brought, you see, it has brought a paper here automatically by itself. Now, it will keep bringing papers. So your library will just keep growing. You don't need to do anything. Your library will just keep growing by itself if you subscribe to those RSS feeds. Your library will keep growing. You don't need to do anything. Your library will keep growing. Now, if you have brought papers onto Scholastic that you want to now work on, you see, we already have 5 papers here. They're just coming. They will keep coming. See, there's nothing we've done. We've not written anything. We just subscribed to that RSS, and it will just keep building and building and building and making papers more and more. Okay, we already have 7 papers, so they will just keep coming. Now, I want to demonstrate to you how to deal with papers once you have them. I'm just going to give you an example using one of my libraries that I created here. This was from also RSS. This is also from RSS feeds. Some of them, as I said, you can upload papers the way I showed you, but you can also subscribe to RSS feed like the ones on PubMed, and it will just keep bringing papers. Now, once you bring your papers, using whatever methods, I have shown you several methods. Using whatever methods, once you bring your papers here, the papers are now organized into what we call summary flashcards. All these are the papers. Even if you had, like I have 512 papers, all of them have now been arranged here as RSS, as summary flashcards. So you can read each of these papers, but you can also export all these summary cards and read them as Word documents. But I want to show you what it looks like. Let us look at the first paper, for example. You want to see how Scholastic has summarized this paper for us. Now, this is the title of the paper. This one is the snapshot of the paper. But then I don't want us to go into too much details of that snapshot. I want to show you how powerful this tool is. Now, the tool has now organized our paper, the paper that we put in there, any paper, it will organize into key concepts, the abstract, the synopsis, Scholastic highlights, Scholastic summary, then figures. And then, of course, you will have all those other things. Now, let us start with key concepts. Now, Scholastic will pick out the key concepts from the paper, and when you click on any key concept, it is linked to Wikipedia definition. So if you don't know what accompanies is, when you click on it, it will take you to the Wikipedia definition of accompanies so that you get to understand what that key concept means in that paper. If you want to talk about significant difference, if you don't know what it is, so those are the key concepts that Scholastic has picked from the paper. Now, those are just key concepts. Then there's the abstract. Now, the abstract, what Scholastic does here is Scholastic will highlight text to show you where, when you click on Spotlight function, the Spotlight function will, on the left, you will see that it has what we call the contribution. So what are the contributions of these researchers without what other people have written? So you can easily check the contributions. When you click on contribution, it will take you exactly to where that contribution is. But you can also check on the key points, important points that are highlighted using different color. So like here, one of the most important points is a new approach introduced in organic research for the elimination of certain system bottlenecks, especially targeting. So that is in Scholastic feels those are important information. The aim of this study is an important information according to, so you can easily just go and check where this important information is. So it draws your attention to the specific parts of the paper. Now, that is the spotlight function. But I want to go back here. So we've talked about, I've shown you how to, we've talked about the key concepts. Now, then there's what we call the highlights. The highlights here, Scholastic will go through the paper and check what are the key points, what are the highlights from this paper that I think if somebody reads, they already have all they need to know about the paper, the critical points on this paper. So these are the highlights. Okay, so these are the highlights. So you can easily just read through the highlights without reading the whole paper. You already it gives you the highlights of that paper. But I want us to go to what we call the scholastic summary. Now, the scholastic summary will summarize every section of this paper that it thinks is important. So if you are reading this paper, the introduction has been summarized for you. The objective of the paper has been summarized very well. The methods have been summarized very well. The results have been summarized so well. Every single section of this paper has been summarized. Okay? Every single section of the paper has been summarized. I want to show a different paper. This paper maybe was not structured very nicely. Let me just see maybe if this one looks different. Yeah, I think it's the same too. Yeah, it looks the same. So you have the scholastic summary that I was showing you. So here you have the summary of the different parts. Now, the one thing I want to show you about this is in the summary, there's what we call the enhanced version, the enhanced. So this, I don't know why the structure of this paper appears like this. I want the scholastic summary here. Okay. This is not. I'm looking for a paper with a very different structure. I don't like the structure of that one. Okay, let me check this. So we have the key concepts, the highlights, the abstract, the synopsis, and then we have what we call comparative analysis. Comparative analysis helps you know the paper you are reading, how does it differ from other earlier findings? How does it confirm earlier findings? Or you see, like when you are doing literature review, you are comparing studies, you need to see whether it agrees with other studies, and which studies does it agree with, or whether it differs with other research. So under comparative analysis in Scholastic, it allows you to, so this one, it confirms earlier findings, so it shows you which findings it supports. So this study supports the concept that the relative intake of LA and ALA may affect that. So it confirms this study. It also confirms this. There's a counterpoint here where it differs with previous work. Where does it differ with previous work? Where it builds on previous research. So this comparative analysis feature is very important for me in Scholastic because then it can allow me to compare the results of the paper I am studying right now and what was done before me, whether there is agreement or now, if you are doing a discussion of your paper, let's say you are writing a paper or you are writing your thesis and you are now doing the discussion section where you want to see the results of this work either agrees or differs with the results of other works. This one can really help you because then you see where the differences are and also where it agrees or it supports earlier research. But then there's something I wanted to show under Scholastic summary here. Under summary, you can enhance. When you click on enhance, it allows you to choose how you want to read this summary. How do you want to read this summary? Do you want to read this summary as a bulleted list? You want to read this summary as a researcher? Let's say we want to read this as a researcher so that it is a bit more detailed. So then when you click on what you want, then you enhance. Now, it's going to be different now because if Scholastic feels that you want to read this paper as a researcher, it's going to give you more details and specific details and a bit more complex details, rather than when you just wanted to read it as somebody. So you see now, it's now, because you are reading it as a researcher, it is now arranging the summary differently. It is bringing now the summary here, which is the summary of the entire thing. Then it has now divided it into the different topics so that it's easier for this researcher to pick out what they want. You see the way now Scholastic has now rearranged the summary. The Scholastic has rearranged the summary because you've said that you want to read it as a researcher. You can come back here and revert the changes. And let's just say we want to read as a general reader or undergraduate level or bulleted list or one-liner. So let's say we want a bulleted list. So then it will now take it into a bulleted list. So when you are using Scholastic as a researcher, you need to click on the enhance and then enhance as a researcher. Then you will be able now to get more detailed information. It will be arranged differently under certain subheadings so that you can be able to understand it as a researcher, because Scholastic understands the kind of details that a researcher would want. Now, so this one is done in a bulleted list. So you just have a bulleted list, but it's still under the same headings. So you can easily, now the papers that have been cited are here. So when you hover your mouse over any citation, you can be able now to see a summary of that paper. Imagine, and you can even show findings. That is the goodness. So you don't have to get out of this Scholastic software for you to be able to see this paper. You'll be able to see they cited this paper. You can be able to, when you click on here, you can get the full text of the paper. When you click on show findings, it will give you a summary of this paper that they cited. So within the paper that you are reading, you can also read the summaries of other papers, you see. This is the summary of the paper that they cited. Instead of living here, going to look for that paper elsewhere, you can just get the summary of that paper right in when you are still in Scholastic. Each of the papers that have been cited, even if you want to get this 61, when you hover here, then you come and click on show findings. It will give you a summary of the paper that those people cited so that you can be able to understand why they cited it. Okay? You see, they found no evidence that supplementation of infant formula influences the growth of term infants in entire positive or negative way. So you can easily now find, imagine you can be finding summaries of all the papers that these people have cited. Even this one, you just click on show findings and you will find the summary of that paper. The summary of that paper will come and you'll be able to read through the summary. So even imagine when reading in Scholastic, you can still also be just getting information on other papers and building your work. You see, this is the summary. So the summary is lack of difference in bile, whatever, lipase, between whatever, compared to. So you can easily find all these summaries and just be taking them and using them, maybe putting them under notes and using them elsewhere, which is one powerful tool about Scholastic. So Scholastic will help you summarize. Now, the other thing, you can export all these flashcards into a Word document and read them as Word offline. You don't now need to stay online. What you do is when you want to export this, you will just come here and select the papers you want to export. So let's say we want to export this paper. So you just click the ones you want to export. You can click many, or you can click all. There's an option where when you select here, it allows you to select all these papers here. Okay. Oh, so let me just go back. Okay, I want to open this so that I can be able to select a few papers. So let's say we want to select, so I want to select certain papers, so I'll select a few papers here. I want to select, I can select as many as I want, but I just want to select a few so that it does not take too long to load. So I've selected, those are the papers that I want to export. So once you select, you come here and click export. Then you want to export as Word. So there are options. You can export as Word, as Markdown, as PowerPoint, as RIS. RIS file, if you export it as a RIS file, then it means that you can now take it to your reference manager and you can use it. But I want us to export as Word first. So let us export as Word. When you click on that, you click on export and then you click on download. You will download all those summary flashcards as Word document now. Instead of the way you are reading them on the internet, you can download and read them as Word documents. Let me just show an example here. I have exported the ones that I selected. I have exported them as Word documents, and I want to show you what it looks like. Okay. I want to open one and then just show you what it looks like when you export as Word. I will stop sharing that, then I will share my Word document here. So imagine this one is the summary. You remember all the things we were seeing on Scholastic, now we are seeing them in Word because I have exported these papers, all of them as Word, and each of them has come now with its summary. See all these things? They are all here, even including the full text. So you are able to now read, even if you don't, if you are not on the internet, you can now read the flashcards that you had exported as a Word document. See, we have the key points, we have the summary that we have here. We have the summary, we have the introduction that has been summarized, all this. So each flashcard has now been summarized and you can read it as Word. Okay, now, the other thing that I want to show you about exporting is you can export as Excel. So let us say we want to export as Excel spread. Let's say we want to export as Excel. We can export as Excel here. I'm just selecting a few. I can select as many as I want and then export as Excel. Now, I have selected the ones I want to export. Then I can export now. I choose here and export as Excel. Download. It's going to come as an Excel spreadsheet. With that Excel spreadsheet, you will see what it looks like. I've just exported a few. Now this is, I'll stop sharing this. And then I will now show you the Excel spreadsheet that I have just exported. So I have exported, instead of exporting as Word, I have exported as Excel spreadsheet. So this paper number 1, let's say this is paper number 1 up here. We have the abstract, we have the keyword. So we have the, So you have the abstract, you have the keywords. It comes as a table, so you can be able to compare. Let's say we want to compare certain papers. So we want to compare papers based on objectives alone, or methodology, or based on conclusions, or based on findings. So you can easily just play around, because then we have table 1, we have paper number 1 is up there, we have the paper number 2 with all the information that is here. So if somebody who is very proficient in Excel, then you can now be able to do your comparisons and do all those things with Excel. Now, what I want to encourage you is, yeah, it's difficult for me to show every single bit of this. It's like when you buy a new phone or a computer, you have to play around with it, work around it so that you get to understand the softwares and get to. So try using this software and see how it works. As I told you, the free version is there on the internet. You can use it to summarize 3 papers per day. But the one that will allow you to summarize as many papers as you want is the premium version. I've told you it is $4.99. You can reach out to TCC Africa, right? Just write them an email. They will link you up with the scholarship team, and then you will be able to do subscription and summarize as many papers as you want, because then it makes your reading easier than having to read the paper automatically. Thank you so much. For now, I want you to ask questions. Somebody is asking, can these tools scholarship be used in academic research for masters or PhD? Yeah, I think that's what I have said. You can use it to summarize your papers into flashcards, and it's going to be very easy for you to get. The subscription, this $4.99 is a monthly subscription. There's also the institutional subscription. So if the university or a research institute wants to subscribe, wants to get a license that all their researchers can use, then you can also access what we call the institutional subscription. So I will stop it here for now so that people can ask questions or add comments, or if there is any clarification that is needed, including proposal writing where we started, so that we can wrap it all up. We have been sitting here for quite some time, so that we can wrap it up. And I know people want also to get into other things so that they prepare for us to meet tomorrow. Any question, any comment, any clarification needed, up to there. I think I've talked a lot. I'm not now going to talk.
Thank you. Thank you, Nicholas. Thank you so much for sharing those insights. I said on the scholars, it's a nice tool. My question is, how different is this from Elicit? I don't know if you've used Elicit before.
No, I've never used that one. I've never used it. So maybe if you can maybe tell us what it does, but I have never used it.
Oh, I think something similar, because that's what I've been using, the Elicit, because it can also summarize some papers in several papers. But then again, it also has limitation because you can only do a certain number of papers per day. but you're able to import your literature into the software, or you're able to use the software to generate literature for you, whichever is easier. And then it's also, you're able to see if you want only to see abstracts, if you want to only see the methods, if you want to see if it is a primary paper or a secondary data collected. So it gives you those options to also sieve through. So it's also an AI-based application, just like Scholarly. And probably now that I thought you have used, it will have given us to see the difference, but it's okay.
No, I've never used that. I've used quite a bit of Scholastic, but then I've also used SearchRabbit. But I think Scholastic has. Somebody's asking maybe if you can type the name so that these are resources that we can always share. Somebody can want to use it.
Yeah, sure. Let me type.
Any other comment? Yeah, it's been written on the chart. It's illicit, so maybe you can check it out and also just try to see what Scholastic also has to offer. Do we have any other comments? Just starting from where we started this morning, we've learned quite a bit of things. I've learned quite a lot today. Thank you very much. You're welcome. I'm happy to know that. Yes.
Let me sorry to come again. This might be a question for TCC team. Do you have a package for students? Because this $4.9 per month, is it, you have categories of researchers, individual research, organization-based, and also in the students. So is this package standard across the board of different cadres, or do you have specific, or is there room for consideration of specific interest groups based on the usage?
Okay, I will allow the TCC team to answer that.
Thank you, Nicholas. Thank you, Paris. For that, you'll have to reach out to our programs manager who's going to advise you based on your specific need. I will link in his email and also mine, which you'll see in that communication so that I can raise it up with him. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Any other question? Let me just see if there's any question on the chat. We don't want to leave stones unturned. I'm seeing people are saying great session. Okay, that's just that's feedback, which is also a good thing. So do we have questions? Do we have comments? If we don't, then we will stop it here. We will be given directions on our meeting tomorrow, unless we have anything that we want to address. Yes, I'm happy that I'm seeing people say they found it interesting because I think, as I said, we learn all the time. You could be a professor, you could be a doctor who has written so many papers, but then you attend a session and say, most of the things that were being talked about are very familiar to me, but then there's just one single thing that I picked that I didn't know. And then you say, okay, it's a good thing that I joined. At least I now have one single thing that I didn't know earlier. So for me, that is just enough. You don't need to, if you just picked a thing or two, then that is, I shall have achieved my objectives for the training, because then it was to maybe enlighten someone on something that was not very clear to them. So I'm seeing people talking about the specifics of what they found insightful. So if there is no question, we are meeting again tomorrow, but then I will allow Kevina to give us a direction on, about tomorrow. And kindly, tomorrow we are learning more tools, and we are also getting a bit of more discussions about how to write scientific manuscripts. How do we prepare our scientific manuscripts for publication? How do we select the right journals for our manuscript. So you have a manuscript, how do you select the right journal? After sending that, how do you even respond to reviewer comments? How do you handle them? How do you do all those things? You know, we are going to go around developing a manuscript to publication, choosing the right journal for your paper, handling review comments, all those things. So we will talk about that tomorrow, so you don't want to miss that one. So that one will be very, very insightful as well. So I would really want to see everybody here tomorrow so that we are able to continue the discussion, because I think the discussion, the insights we are getting from these sessions, that is not just for our own consumption. Most of us are in universities, most of us are just starting our careers, most of us are, so we can also use this information to help others, because it's about mentorship and about supporting each other. So it will be a good thing if you get a bit of information. It's very easy. You can easily tell somebody, okay, I attended a training and this is what was said, so maybe this can help. So you're not just here for yourself, but you are here for the good of academia in general. So yeah, it's a good thing that you try and attend tomorrow if you can create some time. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicholas, for that very insightful session again. For those who joined as early as 5 minutes ago, I hope you are able to pick one or two things. And just as Dr. Nicholas has pretty much said, he has summed up the whole program, but most of the things that are going to be covered tomorrow have been shared in the program. If you have not received the program, please reach out to me at admin@TCC Africa. We convene tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. So please don't be late. And if you have any inquiries, again, just reach out to the contact information that has been shared in the chat. If you are unable to ask any question, I have also shared a link to our community group. If you're already in the community, feel free to ask whatever question that you may like to raise, and our mentor is going to reach out to you, as well as those who will be joining today. Thank you so much and have a great rest of the afternoon and evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. See you tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow.
Bye.
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 Bye-bye.
Goodbye.